Welcome to our Operations Committee meeting. We've got quite a busy schedule today. We've got 3 workshops this afternoon, so we ideally want to try and be here by about 1 o'clock. So with that, we just get straight into it. Health and safety. Yes, it's out the back doors, side doors, and lead doors, side doors, and lead outside. Apologies to the stage. Apologies from this day and from Bislop. Apologies. We'll set those apologies. Conflict of interest. We have any conflict of interest recording. We are recording and being live streamed. Do we have any announced urgent business for today? So if we now move to confirmations of minutes of the last meeting, page 2. Page 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Any matters arising from those minutes?
Just wondered if there's any update on the workshop investigation.
Yeah, we haven't received any information yet. I was supposed to get something from them. They said 3 weeks ago. They said it'd be 2 weeks, and I haven't heard. The investigator did tell me though that he'd been assigned a fatality down in Dunedin, so that's probably going to occupy most of his time. So I haven't heard anything since.
Just one observation, and that's around in the compliance on page 8, the proposed amendments to the Sale of Alcohol and Supply of Alcohol Act were under consultation. I think that we got sent something to look at, and it only came to us like 1 day before. It would have been really useful to have had that information much sooner, just as an observation, because I certainly didn't get the opportunity to go through any of that and give any feedback on it. So I don't know how that could be addressed in the future, but I'd just like it to be considered if you wouldn't mind.
I think it was just that was discussed at the District Licensing Committee, and that was considered by the DLC committee members, and a submission was formulated and sent on behalf of the district from recommendation from the DLC.
Right. Thanks.
And I think that might come into council for late ratification. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So
Thanks.
I don't want to sound like Jace, but it's a timing issue.
yeah.
Yeah.
But it was through the chair. It was quite tight time frame as well. Yeah.
I'll be with this. I should you shortly the next step. So if we've got no further matters arising from those minutes, could I have a meeting the second? Now the public excluded, we can check these for accuracy for a start, and if there are no matters arise, then we're able to pass them. So I guess we'll do a page 2 for a start for accuracy. We've all got your history. Happy enough with accuracy. So if we've got nothing arising, if you do have something arising, we'll have to go public exclude.
I wonder if it might be appropriate, for me just to give an update on it. So maybe
So now we're ready to have the first, four. I'm sorry, Charlie, to do the introduction.
Sure. So, good morning, everyone. So, the first report today is just to introduce the 2103 maintenance contract. This is the current maintenance contract that the council holds, and they're called the successful tender of way back when. So, I'm just going to take you through a brief history of the contract, some relevant points, and then I'll introduce the core team and shift into their presentation. So, just wanted to go over some of the history, looking at when the contract went out. It went out for tender in 2021. Went out with an approximate contract value of 37 million over an initial 5-year term. It's a 3917 contract with a potential contract term of 9 years. So it's a 5-year initial term with two-year renewals that may be, two-year extensions that may be awarded. This contract looks at resurfacing, rehabilitations, management of our unsealed network, and our sealed pavement maintenance, and anything else that falls within the scope. At the time, the contract went out via GETS, the usual tender process being followed, with Port being the only tenderer for this contract at the time. Contract to date expenditure, we are looking just shy of 35 million at the time this report was produced. Which means that the initial contract value for the initial 5-year term is likely to be between 42 and 44 million, a few million over and above what was initially forecast. This is in part down to our appetite to do things differently, as well as additional funding that we've had, as well as the weather events that we had in the early years of this contract, and touch wood that we more soon. One of the biggest components of this contract is how it is scored. We turn on to page 12 or page in the report. There's a table there that highlights basically what the scoring parameters are, with each score banding having an associated impact on the contract, essentially. As well as that, within the contract document, under section 4.5, there is a reward for increased tenure based on the scoring that's in the table above. Have a look through those at your leisure. Basically, what it means is if you were going to score between 85 and 100% on each year for the first 3 years, then the contract would qualify for an extension. If it was lower than that, we may consider a contract extension, and lower than that, you go into increased supervision and auditing and other things, as well as a couple of caveats being that the annual average performance scores for years 1, 2, and 3 were greater than 85%, and the annual performance score no annual performance score for each individual performance metric was lower than 50%. As you can see, point 7. So looking at the contract score year on year for the first 3 years, year 1 was 80%, year 2 was 83%, and year 3 was 82%. There was initially some disagreement and before my time here with how some of these things were being measured or looked at or not measured. We had quite a collaborative approach to making sure that we were all on the same page with that. So we produced an interpretation document. This was something that we basically sat down and agreed on how we would do it if myself or members of my team or members of the core team weren't here to do it in the future. Just gave us that really level playing field. Out of that exercise, there were 3 KPIs that didn't meet the 50% threshold, as outlined in the previous section. They were all in year 1, and as the contract transitioned to new requirements, there was work that was required to be done, or data that was required that wasn't provided time. I think important to note there that staff retention on both sides of the contract have played a part in some operational understanding or some operational challenges. But notwithstanding that, we have some pretty massive highlights for the last 3 years, for the last 4 years now coming up. Multiple rehabs, this year being a prime example where we were planned for 1, then 2, then 3. Having 3 rehabs done in one construction season is nothing short of almost miraculous. And you know, like the residents of Princess Street will be thrilled at their new section of road out there. Reseals have also been tracking in the same direction. In years gone by, we would have struggled to deliver a reseal program. We have struggled to deliver a reseal program in years gone by. I think this was the closest that we've come ever to delivering it in its entirety. I think we're at 99.8%, with 200 meters falling outside of the window, but done by a group. The continuity of the contract management team for Court, I think it's really important to highlight that as far as the contract management side of Court, it's been the same since day one. We've had the same players in the same room doing the same stuff, whereas you know, on the council side we haven't. But we're also tracking for collaboration to go in the right direction as well. I think there's some pretty big requirements in the contract around how we collaborate and jointly program and jointly do things. And whilst that hasn't necessarily happened, it is happening. And you know, this gives us the platform to do things differently and talk about things differently and come up with alternative solutions to problems that we've not been able to think about before. And another highlight, just to finish off the highlights before we go into either some questions or the actual performance metrics themselves, is the response to out of normal weather events or the things that arise that requires a semi-urgent or urgent approach to either mitigate risk or to deliver something to the community. Between both organisations, we've developed some pretty strong connections with our communities, some pretty strong connections with our suppliers, and that enables us to respond, I guess, in an efficient manner and deliver for the community. See if there's any questions before I go on to the 4 pages of tables that are really hard to read on A4.
Yeah.
There's so much.
Yeah, thank you through the chair. Thanks, Charlie. Thanks for that. Looking at the table on page 12 that you've got here, and showing that the contract score in 2024-2025 is sort of sitting at 82%, which has dropped down by 1% from the previous year. What do you see as needing to be done with these contractors in order to get our scores above the 85%, so that we can actually track forward with absolute confidence that we're getting the very best from the guys that are sat at this table with us?
Through the chair. So as I alluded to, collaboration and comms is the biggest thing that would improve those scores. Most of the tumultuous or hard work or anything like that would be rectified by a better collaborative approach. Where we do have a collaborative approach, things work really well.
So just supplementary to that through the chair. So what you're saying is it's not an issue with the actual work that's being done out there on the ground, it's more to do with communication amongst the team, and if that improves, then those scores will naturally go up.
Yes, correct.
Thanks.
Cool. So just highlight over the tiny little tables. As you can see, all the tables are the same. There's a table for each year. This is held in a master spreadsheet. Put off for the purpose of this exercise. Looking at year 1, which is on page 15. So there was some grace given as part of the contract. If you see the blue line about halfway down, this is around the data analysis and reporting. So this is where we decided not to include, or agreed not to include the first 3 months of the contract, as to not skew the results, whilst transitioning to a new contract. The new contract was very different to the old contract. It required a lot more data, it required a lot more evidence, it required a lot more QA, and there was a lot more work generated in setting that up. So there was a transition period there, just to show why those are empty. Other than that, after that transition period, that was really the area that let down year one, was the data and QA and evidence-based items. They were one of the areas that was below 50% for year one. And as you can see, going through, so I'll describe going through the next couple of years, that takes a dramatic upturn in year two, and this is around the same time as the KPIs and how these do what is a fair and accurate way to report on these. So if you look at page 16, you'll see year two starts off 3s all pretty much all the way through. 3 is a 75% score, and if you look at year 3, again, we're teetering on 4, so there is a gradual improvement across those years.
Thanks, Joe. Could you just perhaps help us understand how these were arrived at as a sort of collaborative, and how to do that with that sort of like.
So the actual performance measure indicators were what was important to the council at the time. So there's items in here that council by and large decided was important to them. So that's why they're in there. Blended with our contract management team who have been around the traps long enough to know what good performance looks like. So some of these are fairly generic in terms of a maintenance contract, and some are a little bit more specific, like delivery of 100% of a renewals program being a scoring factor, or CSR response, for example. Cool.
Thank you, through the chair. Charlie, I just wonder, and it may be too early for us to show it, but has the changeover to Datascape, has that provided any issues with any of the scoring, or you know, that communication collaboration between council and the contractors?
Through the chair, I mean, no, I don't think that Datascape has had a huge impact on our ability to do our work well. We mainly exist in RAM, whilst Datascape is the CSR response. All of the work that the roading team and court do for us is based in RAM. We'll get a service request from Datascape and it will get lodged into RAM, and all of the actions following that will go updated into RAM. And then the service request is closed in Datascape, so it doesn't really have a huge bearing.
So that flow from Datascape CSRs into RAM, that's a seamless, not a time-consuming process, or I'm just trying to understand how things are melding.
Through the chair. So that was meant to be a seamless process, where Datascape was meant to be able to create a dispatch of RAM automatically. That doesn't work at the moment, so it's no less seamless than Magic was, but it's no more seamless either.
Thank you for that. Appreciate it.
That's something that's still a work in progress.
Mr. Chair, I couldn't possibly comment. So if there's no more questions about my report, I'll introduce and hand over to the team of court for their presentation. So from right to left, we have Matthew Evans, the court CEO, Stephen Rogers, Senior Contract Manager, and Brendan Rodder, the GM. Right.
Thanks for having us. We have 10 minutes to present today. Feel free to write down any questions you have. We'll list the questions at the end. Good to go there. Charlie's already introduced us. For those that aren't familiar with Chord, we operate across civil construction, roading, water services, parks and reserves, and more recently, electrical. We're proud to work alongside a number of local authorities in the Canterbury region, and certainly proud to be serving the Hurunui district. The relationship we have with the Hurunui is important to us. I guess local authorities are under real pressure to stretch every dollar and to get the best possible outcomes for their communities. And we feel that weight of responsibility too. Our job is to find a way to live within that dollar, to be efficient, to be accountable, to make sure the work we deliver actually moves the needle on your network. What makes our partnership with the Hurunui work? Well, it's the quality of the people that we deal with, and Hamish, Dan and Charlie set a strong tone. They're direct, they're honest, and they do hold us to account when it's needed. But they're equally equipped to acknowledge when things are going well. And that kind of open two-way relationship is really appreciated, and it's certainly not taken for granted. We also see ourselves as more as a contractor. We see ourselves as a partner, and that means sharing more about what we're learning, not just what we're delivering for you guys. We've recently shared work we're doing in the AI adoption and autonomous mowing space, and we have plans to bring more of those initiatives to the table as we go. And on that note, I'm going to pass over to Brendan who will continue on.
Thanks, Matthew. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me here today. My name is Brendan Ryder. I'm the General Manager for Road Maintenance, and I've worked for Chord for the last 24 years. Chord have been working in the Hurunui since July 2015. Over this time, we've seen pandemics and earthquakes. Near the start of the contract in 2016, the Kaikoura Hurunui earthquake hit. This quake devastated Kaikoura and also the northern end of the Hurunui district. By daylight, we had 10 two-person crews surveying the damage throughout the network. Within 24 hours, access to wire was established, and within 2 days after the event, Block Contracting and Chord opened the last section of the inland road to gain initial access back into Kaikoura. In the days following, staffing swelled to over 150 personnel from Chord and various other local companies working under the Chord umbrella. The photo on the right up there is of the huge slip and rolling road, which was cleared by a construction strand with subsequent road rebuild. This is a real life example of how quickly things can change in roading and how quickly we need to respond to the need of the district. We have the resources and relationships to respond as necessary. We have a lot of experience maintaining roading networks in Canterbury, with over 30 years in the Waimak and 11 years in the Hurunui. Collectively, our team has well over 285 years experience delivering road maintenance in the Waimak and the Hurunui. In 2022, Chord was awarded the National Civil Contractors Award for Maintenance and Management of Assets for the Waimak Road and Maintenance Contract. This is a photo of our proud team accepting the Toki. This is a very prestigious national award, which now holds pride of place in our office. This slide represents where our staff live, with 94% of our staff working right here or working under the contract, living right here in North Canterbury. We live in the communities we serve. Both Steve and I live right here in the Hurunui. The combined experience of our staff working in this contract is over 87 years of experience. We have an average staff tenure involved in this contract of 5.5 years, and the management team have an average of 12.4 years, which Charlie alluded to earlier on. We are a local contractor, but we also support other key local suppliers. Looking at the 2024-25 financial year, for example, our roading budget was $9.5 million. $2.6 million was delivered through specialist suppliers like sealing and road marking. Out of the remaining $6.9 million that we control, roughly $2.3 million, or a third, was put straight back into the community from either wages or supporting our own businesses. We recognise that supporting the community where we live and work is important. We try and support not-for-profits or organisations which do good in our community. This can be through providing traffic management for events which otherwise would not take place, through to physically providing resource to get things built, or providing uniforms for local sports teams our people coach. This slide represents the level of sponsorship provided this financial year up till March. Now I'll pass you over to Steve, who's going to take you through more contract-specific information.
Thanks, Brendan. So this slide gives a brief snapshot of the wide range of activities covered under the maintenance contract across the network. For today, I've singled out a few key areas that have significant impact on the network's condition, beginning with unsealed road maintenance metering, where the focus is on the replenishment for maintaining rural access. Secondly, we'll be looking at pavement rehabilitation works, with focus shifts from shorter term maintenance to longer term asset renewal, strengthening the network and reducing future maintenance demand. Followed by a brief outline of the sealed pavement maintenance and preparation for resealing. Across all of these areas, the strong alignment between Charlie and I, along with the good planning and programming from both our teams, is what supports the efficient delivery. The unsealed network's approximately 845 kilometres long, so the planning and programming I just spoke about are critical for this activity. And our focus is not just on placing metal, but about sourcing the right material and applying it to the right roads at the right time. For this financial year to date, we've applied approximately 24,000 cubic metres of maintenance metal and have another 6,000 odd cube to go before the end of this financial year. Interestingly, since the start of this contract, we've applied more than 100,000 cubic metres of metal across the unsealed network. The logistics of delivering this program are made possible through Chord's available plant, experienced operators, and the ability to deliver the works in-house or alongside our key supply partners. Charlie's input and flexibility with the program also helps us plan effectively, make the adjustments where needed, and deliver the work efficiently. Moving on from maintenance metering into pavement rehabilitation, focus shifts to renewing and strengthening the pavement asset. Key point here is the treatment selection and methodology, which worked through collaboratively with our extensive collective knowledge of the network, Council's asset database, pavement condition, network priorities. Across the program, we generally see 3 treatment types. This year, we've employed all 3. First was the overlay work that was done on Medbury Road, where we completed approximately 650 lineal metres. This is suited where we can strengthen and improve the pavement without fully reconstructing the existing road. Second is dig out reconstruction, like Charlie talked about earlier, on Princess Street, where we completed approximately 135 metres. This is used where the pavement is past its design life, and the best option is to remove the failed section and rebuild it. The third is cement stabilisation, shown here on Mutnow Beach Road, where approximately 11,600 metres was 600 square metres was completed. This is a cost-effective treatment which improves the strength of the existing pavement and is a strong option where the existing material can be reused and improved in place. The ability to be able to deliver on all three treatments is a real strength of Chord's that Chord brings to the contract. We're one of only a few contractors in the South Island with plant resource and in-house capability to carry out this work. For Charlie and his team, it gives more flexibility to look at the sites, compare the treatment options, and choose cost-effective solutions for the network. Carrying on the cement stabilisation theme, this next slide shows how that same approach supports our pre-reseal repair program. This work is targeted ahead of resealing, with sites marked up jointly and on pre-selected roads and monitored against program budget requirements. Since the start of the contract, we've completed over 100,000 square metres of pre-reseal stabilisation. That's a significant volume of work and helps make sure the reseal investment is going over a stronger and more reliable pavement. Following on from the stabilisation and pavement work, this final slide recognises the key supply partners who support delivery across the contract. We've built strong working relationships with these businesses, including a number based locally in Huranui. They add depth to the contract, bring specialist skills, and give us the ability to scale up when the program requires it. It's important to acknowledge the role they play, but ultimately this wider delivery model helps Chord maintain momentum, respond when needed, and continue delivering the network outcomes the council expects. Thanks for inviting us along here today. We're happy to take a few questions.
Of course. Through the chair. Morning, gentlemen. Now, I'm Chris Carthy. I'm out in West Ward, Shingle Road. Yes, let's talk about Shingle Road, shall we? Gentlemen, we see a lot of the shingle area that I live in. Is it a challenge for you?
Challenging based on weather conditions.
Yep.
In terms of frequency for grading, we think we've got that about right, but we are looking, we're doing a review on some of those frequencies, focusing on the south end at the moment. Maintenance mettling, yeah, there are some constraints around sourcing material to be able to deliver on some of the extensive mettling that gets done throughout the network. But other than that, we think it's the network's in pretty good shape overall. The biggest impact is on weather events, and that can be wet and dry. Currently, we're experiencing very dry conditions. It's creating lots of corrugations throughout the network. Dusty, we lose the fines. Yeah, it gets hard to maintain graders.
They're very changeable to very exposed with yeah.
I live on it. So it's a supplementary question again, if I may. So you mentioned material constraints issues. Is there something the council can do to help rectify that problem?
Yes, something that Charlie and I and Dan have been working through or thinking about in terms of having resource consents, gravel access to rivers, land-based sources. So certainly something that we need to be cognizant of as we move forward. Availability of that material and need for that to maintain the network.
Thank you.
Right, follow-up question. I had an elderly farming gentleman the other day telling me of there's less passes now. Now, to me, that could be because there's bigger graders. But as the mythology, you know, there's all we used to talk about the buffers and it was brought in, there was more passes which kept the clearance on the side of the road.
There hasn't been, I'm not aware that there's been a direct change in the number of passes that the graders are undertaking. We will sometimes change the methodology throughout the seasons where in the dry we can do a wider pass and sweep it off. If there's corrugations, we have to do harder cuts and try and move and reintegrate the material, pull material from the sides of the road. It's certainly been a challenge up until recent times with the investment in the unsealed network, with the extended maintenance nettling that we're putting on to replenish the roads that we're working with, is certainly making it easier for us to build up and get the right shape of those roads to maintain them. So not specifically in terms of the passes, the grader operators, really experienced operators, out on the network, and they will make some calls on whether they, how they pass and what they actually cut and how they cut it.
Well, there's hands going out now.
No, just to clarify on sourcing material, is it so much actually sourcing suitable material or actually getting consents to get that material out?
It's definitely a combination. It's a combination of both. It is difficult to source material. There's certainly challenges around the competition for that material throughout the network as well. The consenting process can be challenging.
What helps us is really the planning, which and there's a huge amount of planning that goes into that now, and we're able to crush what we need to crush when we need to crush it, and we can go around in stages and apply the so that's the biggest impact is probably being more planned, which is happening. So that's, if you ask how council can help, that's how council is helping now, as we are being more planned in the approach, so we're not as reactive as probably what we have been historically. So that's really good.
Thank you for your presentation. That's really helpful to understand the wider picture. And I guess not complaining about roads at all, but it's just but what I hear most from people, and we've got a lot of roading engineers with thousands of years of experience that live in our district. But what people comment about most, and it's a collective issue between yourselves and us, is, I see people driving around and I've still got, ruts on the road, or the grade hasn't been, how can we collectively improve that understanding for the community that we're both serving to so they understand why you are driving around in your vehicles to, monitor or assess or, provide that intel back to Charlie, or vice versa. And it seems to be that, it's that evidence of the vehicles driving around in a ute and not seeing. So how can we, I think it's a collective issue, but is there some way we can be smarter about how we, help people understand what the roles that have been performed? It's probably a statement as much as not a question, but how can we nail that better, I guess, is my collective thinking.
Potentially it could be by we probably not, as roading contractors, we're probably not good at telling the good news stories and communicating them out to the public. We've got some facts around the pothole numbers that we've got, and just looking at them, we haven't actually communicated it with Charlie yet even, but there's quite a reduction in the amount of potholes that are coming up, and that's primarily because of the investment in other areas being proactive, investing in renewals as opposed to maintenance. I think that's having, like Princess Street, that numbers we've got in front of us, you know, there's 353 potholes on Princess Street. So just by investing in the renewals, we'll reduce that, free up that resource being the LEPs, so they can go elsewhere.
Yeah.
So I don't think we communicate good news stories probably enough.
And if I may, through the chair, I guess that's what I was thinking about, you know, I mean, I would appreciate Charlie's report to us when it's got, you know, I'm not saying just pictures, but you know, some analysis behind it, because actually that's what helps our community understand the story. So I wonder whether there is something we can do collectively that to better inform and better engage our community to understand what's being done. And I mean, Princess Street, I've been driving down that for a long time, so I understand, but you know, but that I've heard some really good comments because they've seen some really good evidence of change. So how can we put that across our whole district?
I think we could
So
probably,
just, I mean, it's just the think piece more than anything.
no, you're right, as contractors, we could probably do a better job of communicating in that space, and it's probably a piece of work we can work with the Hurunui roading team to work out how we can socialise that and understand what are the right channels to communicate that message for this district. But yeah, I think that's a really good suggestion, and look, we welcome the opportunity to be able to celebrate the good work that's happening out on the network, and that both of our teams are contributing to that. So we can certainly take that away as a challenge and see if we can find a way to land that well with the community.
Yeah, that'd be great. I mean, I don't have an answer for it, but I think that it's a product that we could probably inform better collectively. Good results and the investment that our ratepayers are actually making for their desirable outcomes as well. And I know that exposes the opportunity for perhaps criticism as well, but you know, there must be some sweet spot in there somewhere that we can, you know, improve that situation.
I think it's really easy just to focus on the negative things, and there's a lot of good work that's happening out there on the network. I presented to Selwyn Council a few months ago, and they were actually quite jealous of Hurunui's roading network. So there's, it was a surprising comment to come across the floor, but they were, so thought I'd share that today.
Yeah, with you to share, but thanks. I know, I mean, Charlie's doing a great job for us, but you know, having that opportunity is fantastic to hear your story as well. Thanks.
Yeah, through the chair again, gentlemen, I've got a question, it's a bit of a three-way question. You mentioned the three methodologies that we're using, the overlay, the dig out, and then the concrete mix. I suppose the question I want to pose to you is whether or not, which is the best method? How long does an overlay last? I mean, because I'm seeing pretty minimum usage. I get a lot of kilometres in my life every day out on the road if I'm not in my offices. And I've noticed a lot of the overlay or the pot filling methodology doesn't seem to last that long. By the way, I live in the back of out behind Waikari. So I drove over the Princess and I'm in construction. And the guys did an incredible job, by the way, on Princess Street. I was impressed by what they did and the speed that they delivered it in. So please convey on to them. I stopped every day to thank them, by the way. They were good guys. They did an amazing job. But the question comes back to, is it wise for us to do as a cheap option when we might be better to consider, or is this being driven by economics within your side of things? There you go. It's a bit of a three-way question, but it points in the same direction.
Good question.
Sorry, Steve.
No, look, when we choose the treatment type, we choose it based on ground conditions, not the cost associated with it. So we're selecting the best treatment type for the road at the time based on the ground conditions. That's worked through with Charlie and I. We don't sacrifice the quality of pavement for budgets. Charlie works around you know, each treatment type that we select, make sure we're getting the best best treatment for that site. So the overlays where we're going in and just pouring metal on top of an existing road, we do test pits and understand the exact nature of what's underneath it. Cement stabilisation, we also carry out test pits within the pavement carriageway. Understand that there's enough material to mix with the cement, and then the dig out type is exactly what we did at Princess Street. Once again, there was pavement investigations done there. That just allowed us to ascertain that the material, there was just a really thin layer of pavement and really poor material underneath that pavement.
So the question as a supplementary question through the chair would be, when I see potholes being filled with this methodology, it might not be it's your contractors more than like, it might be called brand too, where they're using the bag method into a pothole. Where does that lie in the descriptives? Because it doesn't seem to fit in the 3 notes that you mentioned, just so I understand, because I get it in the air being councillor, like, we're the bloody roads, you stop at the petrol station on Sunday trying to fill up and you get cornered for 20 minutes.
We get it too.
So, just so I can be informed and I can answer this question, where does that particular item sit?
The problem, it doesn't fit necessarily under either of those 3 parts of the presentation. It's probably more of a pothole is more a pothole repair. It's seen more as a temporary type repair.
Okay.
And to be honest, but sometimes that temporary type repair, depending on where it is, that can last a long time. The mixed product that we use under the contract is quite a good product, and we actually stay in like the old years gone by. We've used cold like a pure cold mix, and that'll just blow out. And they do use cold mix in other parts of New Zealand, and they'll just particularly like to. I'm not sure to say this, but like through Selwyn and stuff, the truck vehicles that just go through and blow it out. We use quite a good product in this district. Others we sort of look after, but yeah, it's seen more as a temporary type repair. Because sometimes it can be, especially if there's lots of moisture in the pavement, it can just. But sometimes that temporary repair will last years and years and years because of the product we're using.
Just with the certain parts of our community, not around where I live, but other parts are heavy and dairy trucking and things like that, and that's where the comments be coming from a couple of spots.
Yeah, dairy truck, like trucks, high stress, and primarily
they probably to hell, don't they?
Yeah, and they're probably on corners where they even have got more stress with training vehicles potentially.
We see a lot of heaving on the roads, so yeah, it's obvious. Thank you. That makes sense.
I want to continue from Margaret's point of the vehicles, because if the utes have got HPC written on the side and they suffer some section. But one of the points I picked up from the presentation, which is really hard, was the amount of local contractor signs came up on your slides, and 2.3 going back in. That's another message I think would be good to put out there. That the perception that utes are just coming out of Randall or Christchurch and that sort of thing. That's a good story to put out.
Consider ourselves to be a local contractor. As we mentioned, our people live in this district, and that's true for all the districts we serve. So as a business, we've steered away from the recently tendered NZTA contracts because we wanted to make sure that our focus as a business was on the districts, and that we were really clear about not being conflicted as a business to make sure that we can really get behind and support those communities. So.
Do you have a supplemental, maybe there's something we can work on with our network, but with the information you're prepared to share with Charlie, we're able to put some information out so that our ratepayers can link in to see what's actually happening with the network a bit more clearly. Do you think that's something we could work towards together?
Yeah, we can certainly have those conversations, yep, around what is appropriate and the frequency of that content. Yeah, we're open to finding better ways of communicating with the community. We're out there servicing them every day, so and there's good work happening out in the community, so how can we elevate that? Be good to explore that with Charlie and his team, what that looks like. Come back to you with that.
That'd be great, thank you.
I think the other point is the amount of community groups you've supported through, you know, management, or, you know, so yeah, we keep those sort of little celebrations silent, where we should actually be perhaps collectively thinking about how we can, yes, it's a sustainable commodity, I think. Thank you.
Okay, we've got any further questions for the team? With that, thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you for having us.
Appreciate it.
I think it's a good idea. 10 minutes time or less, we're probably gonna have a cup of tea if you.
Oh, you're great. We'll wait outside and
These cakes first.
right time.
Yeah. Where are you getting your morning tea from?
I just had a very good idea, told me. What we're going to do now is accept Charlie's report. And then we will adjourn for a cup of tea.
Happy to see you.
Over. Aye. Thanks, Kerry. So yes, if we'll adjourn now, and then when we come back, we'll be in these operations report.
Sounds good.
Okay, we're back live stream. So now if we can continue on, we go to page 19. And we'll start our operations report, and then Charlie's gonna straight away.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So
So we've got the executive summary there that does talk about some solid progress again. Particularly in the roading space with the maintenance spectrum programs already restarting, and as Paul alluded to earlier, we are working really hard in the whole grab extraction space and the application of that material. And there's a lot more thought about the style and the type of material that's going down, as opposed to what we've just done in the past, just get the material, put it down and move on. So there's a lot more programming, planning, thought that's going on ahead of time. So similarly with the water, so that's all ticking over really well. We've just got something that I don't really mention in here, but we've got the one plant that's still not prototype compliant, that's Balmoral. I did briefly mention it probably 1 or 2 months ago, but we're getting closer to some solutions for Balmoral. But and we've got some time frames that we're trying to meet in terms of the regulators' enforcement of that compliance target. So we've just written to Marta Abawai and said, given that we're very close now to the new board taking control of water services, the decision for that probably would lie better with them. So we're just sounding them out to see if the regulators will allow that. And if they do, then there'll be a full briefing to them to what's going on in that space. One of the other things that certainly is emerging, and we've been very conscious of it, and we're even capturing data on it in here, is about vandalism. And that does seem to be on the increase. And we hear yesterday that there's been even more vandalism in Hanmer. People gaining access to the reserves, doing skids and wheel spins and damaging that, and also getting into the toilets, ripping the heaters off the walls, and seems like it was a coordinated approach up there over the weekend. So these are becoming wider problems for us, and I just think that we perhaps need to start thinking about that when we're looking at our capital programs. We already start to think about how do we make sure something's safer than it was yesterday. We probably now need to think about not only safer but more secure than it was yesterday when we're building something new. Because I think this trend is something that we're going to start to see on.
Sorry to interrupt, Chief. Thanks, Dan. That hurley thing's a bit of an issue. The Hanmer thing's a bit of an issue, isn't it? Who's got our security contract, and are they actually implementing the expectation of it? Because it seems to be an ongoing problem up there.
Mr. Chair, the contract that we have is with Hanmer Security.
Yep.
And it's relatively specific on what we ask them to do. They don't do roving patrols around the village. We don't ask them to do that. And there are some locking of gates, opening of gates, checking freedom camping areas, police, and looking at the Queen Mary, but that's probably about the limitation of it, I think.
Thank you.
And just finally on that, you'll see that we've received a decent level of compliments, and the community partnerships being very active out there, and see if you look forward for the work that they're doing. So that's me, Mr. Chair. I'll hand over to Charlie, who's on disrupting our program. Oh, sorry.
Can I just ask a question, Dan? This is in relation to your comments around the non-compliance of the Balmoral scheme, and actually writing to Marta Abawai to delay, I guess, doing any further works. Have we talked to the Balmoral scheme users to consider that as an option, or are the Balmoral scheme aware of that? And if not, why would we have that conversation?
Mr. Chair, we're just waiting for the regulator to come back and tell us their view, because if they say absolutely no, it needs to sit with council, then we'll keep going on the same journey. But if they do say yes, we're open to it moving, then I'm gonna have a chat with Bruce and team and say, what do you want to do? This is the proposed course of action.
What do you think will give us the best, I mean, will be a threshold that's been met without whether HTC progress it or some other one, it's the same rules. Correct? Same threshold, same timeline, same opportunity, or what's going to put us in the best position, or what's going to put the Balmoral scheme in the best position for us to start it? Yeah, you know, I just want to know that we're not going to lose into this quicker as a result of time.
Oh, Mr. Chair, the way that the compliance requirements are established, we've got options for that scheme, or they've got options for that scheme, whoever's making the decision. One of them might be that we can actually turn around and say, based on the criteria of the scheme, or sorry, the way that the scheme operates today, it meets the criteria that the risk can be accepted by the local community on that local consumers. So one option is to turn around and say, you don't need any treatment on the water that we're providing. And then, as long as they're prepared to accept that risk, then the water provider can walk away and just deliver water in the right quantity. So that's one option, all the way to having centralised treatment with protozoa and chlorination. So in between those two, there are a myriad of different options that the local community have. So in terms of who can make the best decision on behalf of the Balmoral water users, the method that we've always, or the approach that I've always taken is that we go, I've been and had public meetings, sourced their view, taken that to the Balmoral Water Advisory Group, sourced their view, and brought it back to council. Now, the way that I guess the company be set up is that it still would expect to engage with the community, receive their feedback, and then make the best decision on behalf of the community. So, in terms of whether council made that decision or the board made that decision, I don't have a view on who would make the best decision, because I think our aim would be to provide you with the right information.
I guess my question is really, and why will we use this scheme users in their office pending flick, if you like, you know, I just wonder how, should we inform them of the option or not?
The impending, I don't know until I know from the regulator, because the regulator might veto it and say, no, you can't, you've got to keep progressing to the timeframes. In which case, there's no point having a conversation about potentially giving the decision to somebody else. I think we're only days away from finding out their view.
I guess I don't want lost opportunity to further do the right thing for the community that was serving. Even though time in this place. Probably his job on dry one either. So
yeah, thanks, Chair. Just going back, I guess, to the issues that you mentioned in regards to Hanmer over the weekend and security. I'm just wondering, the network of community cameras, does that give us any idea of who the perpetrators might be, and are we following that through or not?
Oh, Mr. Chair, well, I only found out about it yesterday when I was in the community board meeting. So it's something that we've got to do today, is to follow up on it. I don't know if it's come through the normal channels to our team. I haven't called up with anybody yet because I've literally finished that meeting and I'm here. So yeah, I would expect that we would be using those cameras, and therefore, as I understand it, the police are aware of it.
Good.
And just a comment, and I'm not being interested, Steve, that's I raised that at the community board meeting yesterday, the critical importance to make sure that the local people, that it is registered with police, the vandalism, the destruction and public space. So, just because it's good for neighbours, or good for outcomes.
I do understand that an ambulance has been a result.
Yes.
With damage down to the main, somebody got a time, look, cameras now, it's with the police, somebody's got to please explain. There's also quite noticeable, not just the tyres on the road, but I'm seeing the aerosol cans have been out around the place too, so whether, as you say, from what the police told us, it's not necessarily always young local fellas, it's coming out, I mean, an assertion of North Canterbury.
And I think, you know, from my point of view, we want to send a message to the wider community that actually we won't tolerate it and we will follow it up.
Yeah.
For the good of our ratepayers. Yeah, shut the caution for them.
Apologies for disrupting the normal schedule of Kerry blowing your mind first, but I wanted to capture all the roading essence in the room after our fantastic presentations this morning. So looking at what we've been up to, so going back through April, we started crushing out on Virginia Road. It was one of the highlights for us, and also a relatively big operation in terms of the amount of cubic material that we're going to put on Virginia Road. We're also going to stockpile material out there, which is something that we haven't done for a number of years. We're going to over crush and have some material on hand to treat those roads over the next 3 years, as and when issues come up, because they will. And we've carried out some more patch spreading on some isolated sections of road, bumping up our metal placed for the month by another almost 1,500 cube. And like Steve alluded to earlier, we've got about 6,000 more to go, just to see the rest of the season out, which will be great, which will take us up to about 30,000 cube this year. Still about 20,000 short of what we should be doing, but making a good dent anyway. Another big piece of work on the sidelines is the signage catch up. Back in October when we had our wind event, a lot of signs were damaged. All of the regulatory signs or signs that were required to be up were done immediately, and we had a sort of shake out of the remaining work. Had a patrol go around and assess all of the posts, all of the signs and everything that needed to be replaced. That presented about 200 signs in total, combined with our nighttime audits where signs have lost their reflectivity. So we've basically packaged that work together to get a crew to go out and do that, mostly for efficiency. Looking through at our finances, our service requests, we had 76 received, 80 closed. There was 4 that were hung over, that have since been closed out. The common trend at the moment, again, is the unsealed network, potholes and corrugations seems to be the most highly reported fault at the moment. Not particularly surprising considering the weather conditions. It's been hot, dry. We get potholes, we get corrugations on the unsealed network. And we're working pretty hard to try and address those where we can. Looking at finances, April was about a $1.3 million spend. Of that, 1.1 was call claims. Replaced 141 inch markers, 809 potholes, and 33 linear meters of edge break. Was really good that Steve brought up the pothole repair methodology, and we talked about that a little bit. 335 potholes, I think, that were repaired on Princess Street over the course of its life. Whilst that might be, it sounds like a lot, you go out and see 1 or 2 potholes and you do that a couple of times and the numbers stack up pretty quick. But this is where we build our NPVs from, our net present values around maintenance costs versus renewals, which is why we get the criteria to do something about it. We also graded little over 100 Ks. We've got a grader operator on solid grader now, who's come from another company who's a very experienced operator. Worked wonders down south already. Looking through at the numbers, as you can see, there's a couple there with the over the allocated percent. Just a reminder that that additional funding has elevated the budgets that are currently over. So the seal payment maintenance is actually 3.1 million. So we're still a couple $100,000 under. Finishing off the rest of the maintenance work that we've got to do, we'll see that budget exhausted, and then it will be a shuffle around at the end of the year, like every year, where we maximise our co-investment. Looking through, we've got drainage money left at the moment, so our focus now is going to be shifted to drainage renewals. Lake Sumner, Pyramid Valley, there's a fair bit of work to do out there in terms of culvert work or drainage improvements, and the remainder of the maintenance Metling line there, which currently shows 260,000 left over, but we've got additional funding there, so it's more like 5. And that will see that budget exhausted as well. The only one left out is the bridges and structures renewals. River Road is the hang up. We're still waiting for the detailed designs to come back from WSP, so we can wait for the resource to come through, so we can start that package of work out. Looking at the pretty graphs, same as every year. Goes down, so the core claim goes down before the end of the year and comes up the first few months of the following. And CSRs is pretty much been pretty level across the entire year if it was flattened out. We've got challenges and risks. So we finished Princess Street rehab and completed the associated dig outs. So they were sealed last week, I believe. Again, that was another great piece of work that obviously carried some risk in terms of what time of the year we were doing it. But it all came together really nicely. The weather played ball in the end. We got some fantastic sealing days. And we're looking forward to completing that project by lining that storm pipe that we spoke about a meeting or two ago, where that section of road had failed. The missing O-rings or joiners between the actual pipes was the reason that water was saturating the pavement. So that's going to be lined at the end of May. So that's really good to get it over the way and to do a roading first for us, lining pipe. The mentoring program. So looking at what we've been doing and where we're going, so we've started programming the next year's program. So by next year, I mean starting March, April next year, which should see us about right in terms of our budget for next year as well. Like we've spoken about quite a lot today, the collaborative approach and planning to that has been great. We've definitely managed to get ahead of some of the supply issues by being organised and by having a really clear idea of what treatment we want to use, where we want to use it, and how much of it we want to use. Then our focus will shift to the upcoming AMP bid. The deadline for the draft is 28th of August. So that is a fairly meaty piece of work for all of us to put together. And as we transition into winter, looking at what winter looks like for HCC in terms of ice gritting, any weather events fall out of that, any snowfalls. Going through to the insights, I've largely talked about it now. Looking at the bridge repairs. So we've completed some bridge repairs from the wind event. There's a couple of steel rails on Homestead and Long Plantation roads that were damaged from a tree falling on them. Had those repaired by a combination of contractors, as well as some additional bridge works that was identified as high risk for the likes of cleaning under Berrydale Road Bridge. Seen that before, but was shocker. There's actually some capacity left under that bridge now. Looking forward to the next couple of months. The vegetation side trim is planned for Cathedral Road. That work's approved to go ahead and should be happening end of this month, going into next month. The remainder of the maintenance middling work and the balance of the wheelie digger just to see the rest of this year out. And time to have a look at the activity and see what we're going to do with it. Do it again for another year, do 2, do 1, how we're going to skin that cat. And there's some additional work there for Baker's Cloudy Range, Crampton's Bush Terrace and Mount Brown roads. That's not confirmed, but it's work identified that we want to do within the next 3 months if we have capacity and budget to do it. Couple of pretty little photos. Mundale Beach stabilisation. This was outside of the rehab site, but trying to do things that will cause us less pain. This was something that we wanted to do now, so that it wasn't a nightmare over winter. And I've had a few direct conversations with the community there who are very grateful that we did. Berriedale Road, the bridge there spoke about, and onto page 27 was Princess Street being resurfaced.
I'm still waiting for national budget to come out. Is there any rumblings in the sector? Everything else is going up and being cut back. Is there any rumblings in the sector around our putting in our bid that there might not be as much to go around? Or
Mr. Chair, I think it will be very much the same as what we have now. In saying that, the cost of stuff have gone up, so it will be another case of more with less. However, they have signalled that the local slope risk will be back in some way, shape or form. Whether that exists in its previous format of we put a bid in and we largely get what we bid for, or whether we put a bid in and we get nothing, I don't know what the outcome of that will be. What I'm expecting is that there will be some low cost, low risk allocation. And I think that is largely down to people asking for money and not spending it. And we get a really good asking for money and then spending all of it. So I think if there is any indication of low cost, low risk, we would probably take priority in our
region. We've talked in the past about what the price of diesel going up, that may filter through to people or contractors wanting increase to cover their fuel costs. Is it coming through at all? Or
Mr. Chair, I've had some conversations with some contractors. For example, our wheelie digger operates on diesel at the time, and they've applied a FAF, which they're allowed to do so under their contract. Our maintenance contract relies on CPI, on the cost escalations that are set by NZTA. Could have signalled that they'd like to talk about it outside of that, but I think those conversations have been had.
Through the chair, after our discussions with the guys from Cord, is there anything in our system that we can start to do to work with them to make sure that shingles available, etc.? I know it's an issue. I just want to know if there's I spoke with them over the cup of tea, and I understand the two of you and Steve and Brent are talking. Just want to know what can we do to make that better?
Through the chair, so there was a thing that we could have done to make that better, and we had identified that as part of our previous budgets to have a person to manage gravel extraction consents, gravel authorisations, and hold those consents internally, and that was cut.
Okay, interesting. Is that through the chair supplementary? Because I just got indicated there's up to 18 months delay in consenting as well. Has been. Yeah.
Through the chair, I think the situation is a little bit unique in terms of our maintenance contractors don't rely on their own consents, they rely on someone else's consents.
Right.
So when we look at security of supply, one of the best things that we could do as an organisation is to hold those consents ourselves. So it matters not who our contractor is or who works for us. We have that level of security, which is why it was identified and proposed in years gone by.
It's up to Rich question again to response, if I may. Do you think it's, at the moment, are we holding those consents ourselves?
No.
So we need to probably to smooth the side and we might need to relook at that, do you think? And your opinion?
Through the chair, I think if we were going to do anything of value in terms of metal, then we should. Again, that's why it was put in the first place.
Sure. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Through the chair, look, if I can just pick up on that. If we were to have somebody, smoothing that process and doing the consents from our end, I'm making the assumption that there would still be delays from other parties in those consents coming through.
Through the chair, we all know that RMA reform is coming in some way, shape or form. Gravel authorisations that are offered, we would have precedent to take priority in. If there was someone facilitating that our end, I don't imagine it being a particularly laborious process. It will be some hang time, but I think, again, if we had someone who was capable of going through that process.
So you believe it will be fast tracked as part of the RMA? Makes sense. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Shelley, you mentioned that we are stockpiling. Has something changed there? One of the comments I got with the gents was that there was problems around doing that, or we were allowed to do it or something, which it seems like common sense to go to stockpile.
Mr. Chair, yes, so there is some changes. I mean, the stockpiling is based largely on consent. Because most of our metal comes out of the rivers, we have to do what the consent says, which is you can stockpile for up to 3 months and then it has to get gone. It's not particularly cost effective to cart that material from site to somewhere else to store it. And it's also a risk for a contractor to hold on to material that we may or may not use. So there is a little bit of that, a little bit of column A. The material that we're stockpiling now is from a land-based site, not a river site. And we've given the contractors a commitment that we will use it. As well as, I think there is a little bit of an appetite change from the previous CE of Cord, who wasn't that fond of stockpiling material, to Matt, who is probably a little bit more keen to stockpile.
Thank you for that, Charlie. Is there any further questions for Charlie? Or if not, I'm aware that we've got to keep rattling along today.
Thank you very
much, Charlie. I was thinking of a good fact, And now we come back to building report. Here on page 20.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm not particularly happy that Charlie dropped the gun into my number one spot, but we'll talk about that later. So back to page 20. I think voting is more important than building. I don't know why that would be. So I guess the building activity in the last month has been quite flat. And when you compare it to other regions in our district here, well, Selwyn, Waimak and Christchurch are absolutely flat out as far as building activity goes. And they've issued over 7,000 houses in the last 12 months, which has never occurred before. So yeah, but that hasn't affected us as much, and we're still relatively flat. So but it's just interesting, those the bigger regions are all go as far as building activity. But yeah, I'm sure. So yeah, building activity has just been relatively normal. We've received both average building applications in April, but still relative, nothing spectacular. The value of building work dipped a little bit into the last month, just due to less dwellings potentially coming in. The 24-hour consenting scheme is still bobbing away, but it's nothing, it hasn't been taken up hugely at this stage, one or two a month max. And just one of the challenges obviously still ongoing is the Datascape transition. So we're getting close to what they call data migration, which is getting all the existing data into our new system. And once that's in, we should be very close to clicking onto it, which will be good for us and customers, I think. So yeah, it's for that summary of building, relatively flat, normal sort of month. It's nothing outrageous going on, either in the negative or the positive. So quite good, really.
Thanks, through the chair. Kerry, I just wonder, I'm just looking here at the building inspections failed, 13%, and the average is 14.
Yeah.
It seems kind of high. Is there, something that we can do with our communication to, I'm guessing if there's a fail, then it then means that we have to go back. So is like, what is it that's failing there?
Through the chair, believe it or not, that's relatively low, nationwide. If you add on the pass not completes, it's up to about 30 to 40% that are either not able to be passed. So, but the fails are generally for issues that can't be looked at the next inspection. So generally we try and work with builders to say, can you do that, and then we'll check the next one, and that's not a fail, but it's what we call a pass not complete. So they're happier with that, they're not held up, they can keep moving. The fails generally happen at final inspections or when they're pouring concrete or covering something up, where we have to go back to see something that's a bit more serious. But yeah, they generally no one likes to fail or be failed, so they do, try to get the basics right. But of course, we'd like it to be zero, but it's about right, I think, because there's about 13% of this are not really ready or don't do it right. Yeah, out there. Yeah.
I guess I'm just asking if there's any patterns, like is there any one thing that we can communicate better and cut that down, but appreciate the
through the chair, it's probably not a thing, it's more of a person or a builder, it's the group of builders that probably don't do it right. All across the whole board. It's that small percentage that lets the side down, really. It's what we find. If you get yourself organised and, it's always going to be a pass, but yeah, it's the other ones that are just too busy or don't care or, don't know how to do it. Yeah.
Thank you, Kerry. I think I've got a question coming.
Yes, thank you.
And the question.
Yeah, thank you, through the chair. Kerry, I'm interested to get some insight from your many years of experience in this game. What is it that you think that's actually driving Selwyn, Waimak and Christchurch to have such high consent activity going through? Is there anything that you can sort of put your finger on, or is it a multitude of outside of the fact that people want to build and live there, which is an obvious thing? Is it the process? Is there something that's sort of drawing them, that's making it much more attractive in the process and the consenting process?
Through the chair, I hope it's not our consenting system that's holding people from building. That's one thing I hope, but it's probably just the location to Christchurch, a lot closer, obviously, and most of the action is happening in Selwyn. Huge amount of subdivisions and sections available, and the closest to Christchurch is quite appealing, especially with fuel prices and the like. But yeah, generally where there's a lot of sections, there's a lot of building. So I can't say why. We've got plenty of sections still coming on in Amberley too, so it may be the distance thing that's just sort of holding us back a bit, but we're on the edge of something, it feels like, but because there's a lot of subdivisions going on in Hanmer and Amberley especially. But yeah, people are just not clicking the button to go yet. It feels as though we're on the edge of a few more. Thank you.
Questions? Kerry, couple of questions. Datascape replacing Simply. Do you sort of have a time frame or a date when that will happen?
Through the chair, it was booked in for the 1st of June, but I'm more thinking about 1st July is when we really have to move, because that's when our current system ceases to be supported. So really, D-Day is 1st of July, so we need to have it up and running by then, or we won't have the system. So that's really when it's got to have it running.
Yeah, hi Kerry, through the chair. Do you think, at the moment we've got building firms, a couple of them working in our community. The downturn in consenting, as you pointed out, there are some hot spots, but generally speaking, nationally, we are seeing a bit of a slowing in Queenstown and Wanaka East, but in recent times. do you think it'd be better for us to get it, is there a way we could bring in, you know, like, I hate using brands, but I'll use it for discussion, someone like Ginian or GJ's, they could look at is there a way that you think that they would come to our market with these? Is there something we could do that you think would help? Tricky question, I know.
Tricky one.
I know, sorry, but you're at the front of it all, so I was just asking your thought.
Yeah, they generally get involved with a lot of building work and new subdivisions and the like, so I think, yeah, I can't see why, they do build in Amberley especially, you know, so, but it's just not the numbers, I guess, for them to get the exposure, but we do have local firms that are based in Amberley, a couple of them already, and they seem to be ticking over, and so probably, you know, yeah, I can't quite, I'm not quite sure why they aren't attracted more, but yeah, I guess if they can build close to the town, and why wouldn't they? I don't know. It's a tricky one.
Carters have just put all those sites on site, so Regular is going to get another smashing as well with that eastern block. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we definitely encourage them and support them when they come in. It's, yeah, but yeah, it's really beyond our control. But
sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
There's 2 if not 3 quite large now local companies. If you go around, you see the signs on the buildings, you'll see. Be fair to say that they would be fairly well used to our system now and fairly straightforward with what they're doing.
Yeah, we try and do our best to keep in touch with those companies to make sure we can improve whatever they find, you know, what they might need to make it easier for them to get through our system. But yeah, they're well used to how we operate, and yeah, they go through quite easily. I would thought. A couple of them are already on our 24-hour consenting scheme, so you know they can get a consent in 24 hours. Or one of the local companies. So yeah, it's yeah, but we try and look after them best we can.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the number of sections available currently in Amberley, it's a shrinking number of sections currently available, being through quite a room, but there is a significant number of sections due to come on the market in next year. So I don't know whether the number of sections available is following the market, that the market's slow, or whether it's simply that it's peaky because you know we got the last large parcels of land got built out pretty quickly in the last subdivisions. So well, I'm not quite sure whether we've just gone through a big boom and you don't have a lot of land available. Not a lot of land available because not a lot of buyers out there. So it could be either.
Yeah, if we move on to the property report on page 21, we've just completed our social housing inspections. We go through our social housing every 12 months and just to make sure everything's up to scratch. And yeah, we've noticed quite a few, several heat pumps that weren't working, and so we'll quickly replace those. And the tenants have really appreciated that. Yeah, we've had a resignation in the team, which is sort of someone's moving to Aussie, so we're going to have to find a new person there to mainly does the leases and licenses. So we've got a bit of a spot there where we have to cover it in the meantime. As mentioned previously, there's still ongoing maintenance at ongoing vandalism at Queen Mary, both north and south, mainly with broken windows, either it's rocks or damage or breaking in. But yeah, it's reported they're all being reported to the police now. And yeah, over the page, I'll just show you just a little bits and bobs of work on page 23. We've done some fairly major upgrade on one of the social housing in Church Street. We had a long-standing tenant, so we upgraded most of the things in there, and some minor bits and bobs on page 24 with some booming and safety issues that were sorted. Pretty much business as usual in both things really over the last month.
There is a leases and licenses, and is that about to be compacted with leases and licenses, for things going over to this? So another part of it.
Yes, we hope to have one lease for all the leases and licenses for the Wisco. So that work is underway. We're about to review that lease with internal staff this week. So yeah, but it won't be a whole bunch of leases. We're hoping to put it all on one big list. So it shouldn't be that much, it won't be too much work, but it'll be some additional work. Yeah, but we need to get the detail right, obviously. It could take a wee while to formalize that.
Chris? I want to say there with that, Amira Medical Centre and also say Doctor's House and are the medical centres not responsible for their own maintenance? Sort of did surprise me a wee bit.
Through the chair, we maintain the medical centres. Yeah.
Okay, further questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sorry about the brief delay.
No worries.
Can I just recognise publicly Kieran received an award and one of his peers in the industry, so I just want to acknowledge that Kieran, you're a great team player and we really appreciate what you do, so thank you. Congratulations.
Thanks.
If we'd have known that, we'd have definitely kept you the number one spot.
Yeah, so I was thinking.
Yes, Gary.
Thank you.
So now if we can go to page.
Stephen, something?
No, I was just going to echo what you had said, Murray, so yeah, it's a great achievement, Gary, so well done, mate.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. We can go to page 27, ask Alex to go through the site.
Good morning, everyone. Here, looking at our key metrics across the network, our reactor workload remains steady. This is a usual seasonal change. As the reactor workload is reduced, it allows our team to focus on some much needed safety training. So half of the team attended an externally provided safety training course here, and the remaining of the team will be attending their training later on or in May. Looking across our key metrics, the only thing we're mentioning here, we've had a slight increase in our plant alarms. This is a result of the change in humidity and change in temperature across the network. Largely focusing around that, as well as some power fluctuations that we've experienced over the month. Across the graphs, there's nothing really. Moving on to challenges and risks. We've had a break-in at, in fact, we've had 2 break-ins at our Kauai water treatment plant. 300 litres of diesel was stolen, 40 litres the first time. Stolen the second time. That has been referred to police, and we've taken steps to prevent same incident happening again. And we're working with the police on that. We had 3 separate discharges of concentrated what appeared like animal effluent into our wastewater network that was observed at the wastewater treatment plant. We've put together a wee task force to, I guess, try to identify who that is and try to respond if a further one of those incidents is observed. We essentially have got some staff here that will be dispatched into key places around our network to try to catch the offending party. We've also engaged with Environment Cannery to seek their support and potential prosecution if we do identify that party. Discharges like that have a strong effect on our wastewater treatment plants, which are not designed
for that material. We've got in our district specifically designed places for discarding that material, like the Glasnevin animal waste facility, and it should mean not dumped into our network. Been an interesting fault occur at our wastewater, at our Waikaria Basin treatment plant. This was an unusual fault, which is a human error. So essentially, as we do routine maintenance, the operators had to put in certain settings into our chlorine dosing equipment. And we found out that, I guess, as operators get more and more used to the new equipment, and as they go through and put those settings in, a certain combination of settings can change the way that the dosing pump behaves. So we've redesigned our standard operating procedures, and we've put in place changes right across the network to make sure that the same error cannot occur. Moving on to the reticulation, we had 8 water outages, 3 planned and 5 unplanned, 438 properties affected, 14 reports of complete water loss. 2 of those which came from on demand, they were actually related to planned water outages that have gone over time. And the rest of them were largely as an effect of block marks or water leaks. 81 network repairs completed, and 63 of those came as a result of CSRs, or essentially customers telling us that there's a water leak. The team worked on developing a new, essentially a repair form. So that form is a digital type form. So we've gone away from paper-based forms, and that captures a whole bunch of information that we are required to share with our partners such as Riding, as well as other territorial authorities where we do work. It also provides a bit of risk reduction for the council, where it requires our teams to take photos at each site before they start work. That's just to make sure that if there's any ever claims that we potentially damage something, then we've got photographic evidence of the before, during, and after work. The drinking water quality assurance rules also require us to implement risk assessments for each repair we undertake in the network to reduce the risk of contamination to our customers. That's also been built into this new form.
Rose, question. Will that be something that's system transferable across the WISCO, so where the WISCO could tell our rating team these things?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, yep. At this stage, from our current planning, that system which we use is called Laserfish Forms, that will be transferring to WISCO. So from the, I suspect from the team's perspective and from our reporting capabilities, we should see no change. The revenue metering across the district is, at the time of preparation of this report, was still ongoing, but that has largely been concluded now. Our electrical and communications work focused largely on routine maintenance. As the seasons change, we see a lot of vermin starting to come into our pump stations and water treatment plants because it's a nice warm place. And when they tend to go to is typically our switchboards, where it's nice and quiet and warm, and they do cause a lot of damage across our equipment. So Roy has been out across the network completing thermographic surveys, so that's essentially taking photos of our switchboards and looking for hotspots, which typically identify poor connections and joints. And also sealing the switchboards and cable ducts to make sure that the vermin can't get in and do any damage. There were a couple of new pump stations commissioned, one of those being Lower Rotelli. So alongside of that, we need to develop alarming as well as information gathering from the plant in our existing SCADA system. So Sam has been hard at work making sure that's all working and tested. And we've also worked alongside of Apex to further optimise the river return system at the Hurunui 1 water treatment plant. So that work is still ongoing. In terms of water safety and compliance, the council's input on Tomato ROI's consultation on the drinking water quality assurance rules was well received. And our staff were invited to essentially a session on refining those rules. Our input into that session was largely focused on risk-based approach to sampling rather than a blanket rule of we sample and test everything everywhere. And the focus, I guess, remained on explaining to the regulator that we are the experts in our network. We understand where the risks are, and that sampling should be reduced based on those risks. And that is largely around reducing costs to council through the ongoing programs. And that was very well received. Our Balmoral water treatment plant compliance options have been fully costed, and a presentation has been made or developed in order to support our future decisions. Treatment plant performance, everything went well. We are going around the network around our new water treatment plants and moving some of our dosing pumps from where they were originally designed and built, and that is to shorten the lengths of the pipes to, I guess, reduce the faults that occur due to seasonal changes. So as humidity changes, we can introduce gas into our chlorine dosing equipment, and our dose pumps really don't like that, so they fault. So we've worked out through a bit of trial and error that the best way to do that is actually shorten the equipment and put the equipment right next to where we're dosing chlorine. Compliance-wise, as usual, we were fully compliant with the treatment plant upgrades that happened. Moving on to wastewater. Our routine inspections continued. Environment Canterbury had completed assessments at Cheviot, Great Valley and Montnap plants. We've had some requests for information following those inspections, and we have replied to all those requests. Stormwater-wise, our heavy routine maintenance programs continued. Largely focused on Pardon, Waiau, as well as Cheviot. And we've developed some further modifications at our Leafield Beach culvert out to sea, and that was to, I guess, speed up our evacuation of shingle that builds up there with the tides, as we bought a new pump, which provides the ability to, I guess, shift a lot more water. So we've increased the size of the fittings and improved the way that the water travels through the pipework, to essentially reducing the time that it took us to open those pipes from about 3 days when it was heavily blocked to less than a day. Moving on to, I guess, upcoming activities and plans. Preparatory work for annual reporting continues. The auditors have been with us last month and went through our end-to-end process for how we capture the information out in the field, how the customers call us, and how that transfers into reporting. And that information will be prepared for our annual report, and our ongoing compliance and network maintenance work continues. Our routine maintenance program continues to be delivered as planned with some minor variations. And on page 31, there are a few photos of the work showing some drain maintenance in Cheviot, some of the clearing work happening out of Leafield Beach for the stormwater clearing. And just, I thought a really interesting snapshot here on page number 32, showing the difficulty that our utilities officers can sometimes encounter out in the field, trying to identify where the water leaks are. So our equipment will show them the water leak is roughly between here and here, and that could be a few kilometres apart. And they would essentially have to walk or drive paddocks and feel the leak under their feet, wherever that may be. And that's about all I have.
I think it's a really cool picture of the boots.
Yes.
It's pretty familiar, isn't
It
it?
is a good picture.
I've got a question, Steve.
Thanks, through the chair. Thank you, Alex. Just take you back to your challenges and risks, if I may, on page 28. Talked about the break-in at the Kowai water treatment plant. Matters been referred to police, that you've reviewed some of the preventative measures. I think that's what you said, or something very similar to that. For 300 litres of diesel to have been stolen, there must have been a reasonably considerable time on site for that to have happened. And is this something that we could see as a potential risk or threat to the other 13 water treatment plants we've got across our district? And if so, can you give the assurance to the council that security around all of those plants has been reviewed or is in the process of being reviewed, so that we can do our very best to ensure that this doesn't happen, or if it does happen, people on site doing this can be caught while they are on site doing it?
Sure. Through you, Mr. Chair. Can I give the council assurance that that won't happen? Absolutely, I cannot. In terms of what we're doing about it, we've got a program in place to review our current access arrangements across the district and classify where we potentially need to improve security. We have already purchased some, I guess, covert CCTV equipment that we can deploy and have deployed across our other facilities. We've done some further steps at this particular plant to aid the police in, I guess, catching the perpetrators. I'm quite happy to discuss those, what we've done privately outside of a public meeting. I don't want to, I guess, make it easier for people to try to circumvent them. And police actually have been really good and they're wanting to encourage reports of fuel theft given the current situation around fuel, because we are not alone in terms of being targeted. Christchurch City Council's also got quite heavy damage and theft across their network. So police have got certain tactics and certain responses where they can improve their access or their response to our sites.
If I could just add to that, the comment wasn't about you giving assurance that these things won't happen. It was you giving assurance that a review of the security of those areas has been made. So I quite appreciate you can't give us assurance that crime's not going to happen. I just wanted to make that clear.
And what can comment then for me?
Mr. Chair, one of the things that we've been working on over the last 12 months is a security strategy, looking at all of our sites, not just water, but all of them. And we have come up with a way of classifying the different risk profiles. But as you know, it's not going to be a cheap exercise. So that's something that we've built into our property and that strategy to say a site like this with this risk profile needs these sorts of security measures deployed, but it will come at a cost, because you'll remember in not too distant past, Naomi talking about some of the security issues we've had at the libraries. And break-ins to the reserves and people doing their skids and all. So that's part of our property, and so that is one of our things that's top of mind at the moment. Notwithstanding that, we've actually got 13, we might have 13 treatment sheds, we've actually got about 82 pump sheds. So the risk is large. And the sport there, still.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair. And I mean, I don't know if this is a question that you want to answer or can even answer. I'm just thinking, notwithstanding the need for us to have diesel on hand, obviously, for you know, pumping and whatnot, that's a large amount to have, and I'm sure that there are scales of economy and, you know, storing that amount, having it delivered or whatever. But have we given any thought to, you know, having lesser quantities stored? I guess I'm wondering what length of time would that amount of diesel serve, and, you know, is there an opportunity for us to lessen any impact by having less stored?
Through Mr. Chair, the equipment that we have at these particular sites is designed and is in place to provide us time to be able to, I guess, restore or continue to provide services to our customers in events of emergencies. And as you may be familiar, just in September 2025, we had roughly 3/4 of our network that was affected by power outages. And that allows us time to be able to go out and respond and be able to top up various sites that are affected by power outages. At the time, don't quote me on the amounts, but we were delivering roughly about 5,000 litres of diesel across our network per day. And that is no small undertaking. So in order for us to be able to provide resilient services, we do require to have diesel on site.
Thank you.
These are no small machines. So the machine on site there is 250 kVA. So it's a large generator. So it has a fairly high fuel consumption. Typically, our machines are designed to provide sort of between 12 and 36 hours of continuous running on site.
Thank you. That gives really good context as to the storage required. Yeah.
It's just that every log crew, every year's works, every agricultural contract, every
Oh, yes.
partnership.
Yes.
It's just life at the moment, unfortunately. Steve.
Oh, that was the question I was going to ask. We've got enough headroom in our fuel, which you've already answered the question. So, yeah, no, that's fine. Sorry to be rude.
Yeah, through Mr. Chair, just a message, I guess, out to the communities. We obviously realise that things are tight, but this equipment is designed in order for us to be able to provide the same people with, I guess, the lifeline services that we provide. Yeah.
Chair, just a comment. I recently lost 2,000 litres at my property a couple of years ago. Our cameras caught them. We only got them from here down because the way they worked it. They were in and out, bashed the top off the filler, used a siphoning unit, hand pump, whizzing siphoning unit. They're gone in 20 minutes. They backed the trailer up and they were gone in 20 minutes. So that's how quick they can be if they're organised. They cleaned my tank right out. I backed in 2 days later when I got home and dong, dong. I thought it had leaked out. It was like, no. Police came here to look and see what's a very hard thing to identify fuel once it's in another person's tank. Showed them the footage. He said, well, your camera's on the wrong piss, isn't it? I was like, yeah. So we fixed the problem, but that's how fast, if they're organised, they can do it.
I've gone through Kent, the vineyard up the road as well. Good question, Chris.
Alex, thank you. I know we've talked about this before, fire hydrants. One of the local brigades got called out the other night, and the fire hydrant had been sealed over by the road repairs. When they did finally get the lid off, it was full of shingle. Yeah, is there any space for doing some sort of routine checks on these? I mean, it's going to be a life and death situation one day.
Mr. Chair. In the past, I guess when Vince or the rural fire brigades were part of council, the fire brigades themselves went out periodically, checked the fire hydrants, and they provided council with, I guess, a report or a request to go and either do some painting, provide arrows where they were required, and they would routinely test the fire hydrants to make sure they were operable. Our maintenance programs were built with that in mind. As the organisation transitioned to FENS, from my understanding, FENS had realised that they were not able to do those services because their staff were not trained in traffic management, so they have stopped doing that work. Unfortunately, that came to us, or that didn't come to us in any structured way, apart from we're no longer doing this work. So we're kind of caught in a bind where we didn't have the scope in the long-term plan to begin doing that work, but it's something that we're considering in the future.
Yes.
Okay, moving to further questions for Alex. Otherwise, thank you very much, Alex. I know it's phenomenal report to this committee. I wonder our next meeting, which will be the last one before it goes to Wisco, whether we should review first billing, give us the big, it'll be quite a significant down in a number of ways. But I'd say if the new setup does half as good a job as how we've been served today, we'll be pretty good hands.
No, just a question, I'm sorry to preempt that discussion, just here. In regard to Chris's fire, is there not something we could do in writing a letter to, or having a discussion with DZ or, you know, like, if just listening to Alex's response, which, you know, we get stuck in this sort of, it's not ours and it's not yours, but actually it is an issue, and should it be raised in another should we take the opportunity of raising it elsewhere?
Please explain to the contractor, be a good start.
Well,
My concern is when it goes to the Wisco, is it something that's just going to be lost?
Yeah.
so is it should, through the chair, is it an issue that should be raised with, you know, FENS or DZ1 or somebody that's has oversight to the Haringey district from a FENS perspective?
All hands are up now on this one.
Whole crowd going out, all I can see.
Yeah, no, look, because I mean, it's an unintended consequence of, you know, the changeover. But I'm just wondering also, I'm sure that this is not just happening in the Hurunui, you know, it sounds to me like there's a real gap. And as you said, rightly so, Chris, a potential for it to become life and death. So I'd be interested to know what other districts are doing as well, who is picking it up, if anybody, and if not, then I'd say we have a national issue.
Yeah, that's just what I was about to bring up.
You're right, fire brigades did used to do it on a practice
Yeah.
night. No, that's changed, isn't it?
The question sorry, you need to respond.
not respond, I also wanted to add, so with the, I guess, the national regulation changes around the water, our current rules have made the fire hydrants less usable to us as an asset. So I guess the new rules prohibit contractors from using those fire hydrants for anything other than essentially firefighting. So we used to be able to provide water supplies from those fire hydrants to contractors, but they used to be able to purchase from council. We now have to do that via dedicated tanker filling points, which are being deployed right across our network. So from the operations perspective, they certainly do still provide us, really good use where we continue to use them as flushing points. But as time goes on, that they are, from the operations perspective, they do have less value to us as what they were in the past.
Through the chair, if I may, do you feel Fens threw us under the bus a bit on this? Well, I reword that. That's not allowed to be said. I apologise. Do you think Fens have distanced themselves from the responsibility? Because I watch our local brigade do traffic management of car accidents and things like that quite regularly. I'm partly involved with the Waikari volunteers, and it's just curious that they've done that. When I see, if there's a big accident and they're called out, suddenly they're doing traffic control a lot of the time. It feels like Fens have just wiped their hands of this for a reason. Am I reading the room incorrectly?
I can answer that.
I thought you might be able to, right? That's why I chucked it up there. Thank you.
So Fens are allowed to do traffic management under emergency laws,
right,
but not outside of that, and that's where the fire hydrant thing becomes an issue, because it's not an emergency situation.
Right.
Some brigades are still doing some of it unofficially, but officially they're not allowed to. My understanding is council have a responsibility to provide working hydrants. The question becomes of what is classified as a working hydrant and who determines if those hydrants are up to a working standard. And my concern is it's going to come down to court case one day where a house would be burnt down because the hydrant didn't work, and then it'll come back, well, were adequate steps taken to make sure that those hydrants were working.
I think we can leave that one with you, Alex.
Yeah.
To take some big scare. Thank you very much. And I think if we can now ask Andrew to come and go to page 32. Thank you, Alex.
Thanks, Alex.
Thank you, Alex.
Yes, on page 32, my summary nearly covers the lot this month. So the service request numbers has eased a bit since last month, where they were quite high, and they cover a sort of whole range of responsibilities. Most of our animal control activity was around roaming and nuisance dogs, though there were 2 dog attacks reported to talk about. And in food safety, we had our routine verifications, and then we also had 2 complaints about food premises. One being a person became sick after they had eaten at a food premises, so there was an investigation into that, but nothing found in terms of the process and practices of that food premises. And one where a complaint come in about the hygiene and cleaning food storage, basically everything at a reasonably new food premises, and that one was substantiated. There was some pretty serious issues going on here, so some immediate corrective actions were issued, and that operator was onto them straight away, which if they hadn't been able to get them straight away, that was just probably need to close their premises for that. There's ongoing monitoring of that one, because obviously there's dealing with the immediate issues, and then there's the having the process in place so it doesn't become like that again. And also in food, we did cancel food registration for one company, which resulted in two sites having to close. They since have repaid their outstanding money and re-registered and opening again. They're also being reasonably closely monitored, because part of the reason for that having that outstanding fees were that they had to have a lot of visits from the food safety officer because of the way they operate their businesses. So keeping a reasonably close eye on that one. Just noted that one of our two compliance officers was on 8 weeks of leave, which was they flagged that with us when we employed them over a year ago, but it's been that process now, so that's meant that we've built up a few jobs to now try and take over now that he's back. And also that we've had a dog in the pound ongoing, which has taken a bit of resource to go every day and clean and water and feed and exercise. Nothing more on what's been, just in the upcoming activities, something new since the report was written is that the Ministry for Regulation has come out with the consultation on the hospitality sector review. So this affects the alcohol legislation and the food legislation. And we received the discussion documents on Friday, and usually extensive. There's quite a lot proposed in there across both food and alcohol, and some of it's there's a real range of potential options around things like who decides on licenses. Will there be new types of licenses? Will food premises be able to simply notify the council that they're operating instead of registering with the council? So I would say quite fundamental things that we need to get our heads around, and that consultation is only for 2 weeks, so it closes next Friday, so we've got to get something together there, and that's different from the alcohol submission that I circulated last week as well. It's a separate piece of work, so quite a bit going on.
Morning through the chair. Morning, Howard. Dog in the pound. It's been there a while by my accounts. Mental health of the dog won't be too good. I mentioned this animal is looking for being disposed, to put it briefly. Is that how we're seeing this just put down?
Through you, Mr. Chair, that's why we've been working through with this dog, because this dog was essentially surrendered on the condition that we would endeavour to assess whether it was suitable for rehoming in the first instance.
Sure.
And it's just taken a bit of time to find a suitable assessor. So, you know, there's risk involved with that process. So we had an assessor, they've come in, they've done 2 visits to the dog, they've taken the dog, done another assessment with them, and they've just finished us with a report in the last week. So that should allow us to now make some recommendations and decisions and carry on with that. But the first, we undertook to assess that dog for rehoming before we made a decision about euthanasia, and that's sort of coming to the end of that process there.
8 weeks, long time.
All through you, Mr. Chair, I agree with that. We know that's not ideal for a dog's well-being to be in the pound for a long period of time. So, but yeah, I agree.
Through the chair.
Do we bear the cost of that, or does the owner of the dog bear the cost of that?
The owner of the dog bears the cost up to the point where they surrendered it, but that was some time ago. So I think since they did surrender in writing, and the rest of it's been us working through our process, that that is probably our cost, which is start time. Yes.
If I may, through the chair, is it going to be put down, or is it going to survive, do you think?
Through you, Mr. Chair, not decided yet.
Okay. Thank you.
If I may just speak briefly into this, I would like to note that the way that this has been progressed has been extremely well progressed. Even though it's taking time, it has been handled extremely well, and the contact that council staff have had with relevant parties involved, in my observation of this, have been handled very well as well. And yes, it's taken a little bit of time, but I think that the outcome needs to take time. To get to the right outcome needs to take time. So acknowledging your point, Chris, about the length of time the dog's in the pound, the system, the process that has been worked through that I've seen has been solid.
Yeah, I think we probably as well not to preempt any outcome on it.
Yep.
Back through the chair, thank you, and return to councillor. That's comments, appreciate them, and I understand the length of time as required. Being heavily involved all my life in training in breeding dogs, I just worry about the mentality, whether the dog is actually going to be rehousable because of the length of time it's been in placement. I think we'll probably know the unfortunate outcome. I didn't want to make an effort of it, and I'm not going to. I just wanted to get my head around it. That was all I needed to do. So thank you for your sponsors.
Thank you, Chris, and I think I've got your name like this time.
Yeah. Calling me Steve. Yeah, that's right. You just put Melissa down as Steve did all the
That was all I wanted to highlight on the compliance area, so I'll take it for me to move on. Right. So the big ticket items for us in waste this month are still thinking about fuel. Waste uses about 13,500 litres of diesel a month. So the 94% increase in costs is definitely on the line. I mean, a lot of that is used by the contractor, so that's not necessarily a direct cost to council, but we're still trying to think about what, where there is possible savings. But I think, like I flagged before, is it's a pretty well thought out trim operation, so there's not a lot of excess fuel use without a reason. There has been one initiative that we're trying that's just started this week, which is to use, similar to we do with glass, one of the contractors that runs into Christchurch from Cape Valley with empty trucks to take some recycling to the EcoSort facility. In the past, there's some logistical challenges with that because your waste has to go there in a particular type of bin, and because it's not coming back to us, it's going somewhere else. We didn't really want to commit our few and very well looked after recycling bins to going off to some other place. So we've got a solution for that. We may still have to take the occasional one in, but we'll trial that and see how it goes. So that essentially saves the return empty trip of our contractor's truck. Hopefully that will work. And just to note, we did have a wee jump in our contamination rate to 1.7%. So we've been running mostly under 1%, which is really, really good. And even though that's a big jump for us, that's not probably something to be too alarmed about, because we've got in our own contract a 5% limit, and EcoSort's acceptance criteria are 10% limit. So it's something to keep an eye on and make sure we understand that it's not a trend or something durable is contributing to that. Also bear in mind that that's assessed by one bucket scoop from one load, so I think there's probably, you could expect some variation in that as well. No real reports from the contractor that there's any great change in what's coming through in the bags and things like that. There's no big jump in contamination. It's about what it normally is. That said, we're still seeing the fairly severe contamination of all the 24/7 recycling bins, but I think that's sort of an ongoing situation.
Usually swap places.
Hang on, I'll do your phone, right, there you go. Yeah, through the chair, Adrian. I see to date, we've got 442 tonnes of bottles, so these plastic, well, that'd be the glass, would it not? Yeah. Do we have any numbers on our plastics at the moment? Our plastic recycling as in bottle, plastic bottles?
Through you, Mr. Chair, not to hand, because all of our plastic goes in the mixed recycling. I have in my head that they do provide us a breakdown of the material type, but I don't have any of that data ready to share with you.
Is there any chance we could get that if it was possible?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair, if I'm right and it does exist, I think, yeah, we can definitely share it.
That would be wonderful, thank you.
I guess the other big ticket item to flag is that the glass recycling boxes for the Amberley Glass collection are all here, and the comms is largely ready to start rolling out from the end of the month. With our plan for rolling it out is actually to have staff member in the library, or 2 staff members in the library, kindly funded by the Ministry for the Environment, and also a collection point here, and to try and to get customers to come and collect the glass bins themselves, which is a sort of a repeat of how it was done in Hamner several years ago when the bins were delivered there. And I guess it was a toss up between doing it that way, where the customer comes in to collect the bin, or doing it the old when we used to deliver the rubbish bags to people's property. But from what I understand, there used to be quite a lot of goings on with, I didn't get mine, or I haven't, so people that were either pulling the wool over their eyes to get more, or people pinching other people's. So, whilst we sort of do anticipate there'll be some pushback on why we aren't delivering them, it was kind of a balanced decision, and we went with the we prefer people to come pick them up to avoid any pinching. We will make an effort to get them to people who are unable to come get them. So with things like the Amberley Retirement Village, I understand we've got arrangements to get the bins to the council pensioner flats. We've got arrangements to get the bins to there, and we'll obviously provide contact details for anyone that's unable to come and get there, so that we can get them to them.
Yeah, thanks through the chair. Andrew, just in regards to that, I think I understand completely why you're doing the pickup thing. Will there be opportunities for people to pick up outside of business hours? Like, I'm thinking, can we do a stall at the farmers market, or come and collect your bin and we can tick you off? Or
through you, Mr. Chair, I don't think we've arranged anything for the farmers market, but I do know we're doing Saturdays at the library, and I think we're doing some late nights each week as well. So we're trying to get outside of the business hours.
Yeah, I was just thinking, if you think about Amberley on a Saturday, there's a lot of people go to the library, but there's a whole lot more Amberley residents that would be right here. So perhaps it's worth thinking of, but I'll leave it to the team.
Sure, you asked about the 32 damaged. Is that something a bit out of the ordinary? Like, are these things robust?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, they're the same recipe basically as the Hamner ones, which have gone really well, other than sort of expected damage. So 32 damage in transit suggests to me they weren't handled very well in transit. It's certainly more than I would have expected to be damaged in transit, but the actual quality of the things seems okay. And if we lean back on what we learned about wheelie bins, we sort of expect, at worst case, you might have 10% of them lost or damaged or written off every year in terms of tuning.
Through the chair, if you could change direction, do we have any insight? And you get it, that helps. So, any insight into tyre waste? Do we have any? I mean, after all that catastrophe that happened up north of us a few years back in the lights, do we have any statistics on the amount of tyres we're absorbing and dumping into the system?
Through Mr. Chair, yes, but not with me.
No, that's right.
But we have some. I mean, we've got sites operating under the Tyre-Wise scheme, yes. So we've been running them in for free, and I've no doubt we've got that data to share in terms of how many we're getting. Yes. We won't have the good thing about that scheme is that tyre outlets are also collection points, which I think is, you know, from a council waste point of view, the more that goes back to the, you know, through the retail chain, the better, you know, the less that we actually have to handle.
Yeah.
So there might be some actual national tyre-wise reporting that, that is the bigger picture. And also, related is that since the tyre file became a thing, there's also been the introduction of the National Environmental Standard for the outdoor storage of tyres, so that there are rules around that weren't there when that initially happened.
Yeah, craziness happened.
That environmental standard is the regional council is the enforcement agency for it, so we haven't actually had any involvement in dealing with complaints about that. On the one last thing that I had highlighted in here to mention was that we did this choose to reuse promotion about you know, reusable coffee cups being one of those classic streams of waste, and we were quite excited when we had 27 outlets sign up to do it. We thought that was a pretty good uptake, but actually I only got 100 entries in the end, so obviously it didn't quite inspire the public in the way that we'd hoped. So we through these sort of business initiatives and education initiatives, we're willing to give these things a go, and we'll obviously evaluate them afterwards. And maybe 100 entries didn't, you know, wasn't quite what we'd hoped for, so we may look at whether there was something specific about that didn't work, or whether that's just not an area where we're going to get a lot of traction. I suppose it's a reasonably well-known waste area already, and there's lots of people doing things around keep cups and recyclable cups. So bit of a shame because the outlets were definitely enthusiastic to be involved. That's everything I wanted to know.
Thank you, Andrew. If you've got any further questions for Andrew. So now if we could go to page 37 and the board has to take us through customer services.
Absolutely. Good, everyone. So I guess in the summary, the first thing I wanted to highlight was the number of active members that we actually have at the library. It's over 5,000. So that, and to be an active member means that you have to have used your library card in the last 2 years. So I just had a man at the counter this morning who came and telling me how nice and warm it was here in the bank. It was nice and warm. And I said, you should pop down to the library, it's lovely and warm here. And then he was telling me how last time he went in his card is expired. So it does do that. So if you don't use it in 2 years, you do get expired from the system. So this is active members. And saying that it's not a good count on its own, because we have so many people that go to the library that don't use a card. You know, you can go in there and use a computer. You can go in there and just sit in there and use the free Wi-Fi or read the newspapers, do one of the holiday programs, you know, those. You don't have to be a member. So it's a statistic, but it's not the only statistic. So, but it's a good one. The other thing that I just wanted to point out with this too was we had April is a month where we have quite a few public holidays between Easter and Anzac, which can reduce our actual physical book borrowing because there's less people coming in. Some people borrow more to take them away. But what we did see more of in April was the e-resources going up, and you can see down on that bottom graph, bottom left-hand corner, it's still an average from previous months, but those figures are actually showing it's about 30% of our, compared to our actual book borrowing is e-borrowings now. A lot of audio, people love the audio on the room, drive around and listen to audio books. There's also, of course, the e-books, but it's the e-newspapers that are really taking off. And I think that's a lot of our migrant community and our people who've just moved in from overseas who've realised that you can read the newspaper from Germany or from wherever free. You know, online, free, get those papers. You can't get the press for free, but you can get pretty much everything else.
It's crazy, yeah.
It is.
That's yeah, works for you.
Yeah. So, when we pop over to the compliments, the one that I wanted to highlight today was actually the property one. And the reason I'm highlighting that one is because it's sort of internal. And I think that sometimes we forget that we actually have our external customers that, you know, come to us and they want something fixed and they want something else done. And we have our internal staff that, you know, go on being on IT's door and say, I need my password redone. But we also have these little groups out there. So the likes of our reserve committees and our hall committees, these groups need the same amount of service and support. And they often come on and they start voluntarily and they do bits and they do it without a great deal of knowing what they're necessarily doing or how to go through. And so this came through as feedback about someone from the property team who was really helping them out, figuring out how they're supposed to order their cleaning products. And they had identified, as new people often do, there could be some more signage here or some more things here, and they helped them with that. And they just thought that was absolutely amazing. So I just thought I'd highlight that one. If we go down to our events and activities, the humans and the Huranui. Now, I don't know if you've been down to the library and had a look at this. So this follows on from the Humans in New York project. So that's a real famous one that you see on Facebook, and they've got their own site where they get the man in the street and they get their stories, and they're really interesting. So the Huranui Camera Club, they were challenged by some international thing to try and do the same in their local area. So if you pop down, you might even recognise some people down there of who's in it. Anzac was very popular in the Huranui again, with lots of displays, and most of our libraries took part in that. Those bottom two pictures were actually from the Imberley School of some kids that actually did a display down as well. Another really interesting one that took part was a book launch. So there's the Huranui Writers Group. Huranui actually has a writers group, and it's a really successful group that come together monthly, and they look at their craft and how they're going with that. And the Huranui Creative Communities actually gave them some funding this time around. Some of you would have been involved potentially in that decision, which actually helped them put together the publishing of their own book. So they put together their collection of poems and short stories. And so this was the book launch that was held. Oh, ta-da! Here's one I prepared earlier.
If you want to have a look, there is a copy in the councillors' lounge as well. But yeah, plain speaking.
I mean, that's just amazing, and it's a homegrown group of people who come together and put that together. So, and then the next one down, I want you to totally ignore and pretend you don't even see it. The Huranui Community Arts, because that's May. Sorry, it slipped into April. You'll see this again next month. So at the moment, just ignore that. Oops, yeah, we won't mention that one at all, Councillor Harris. So then we have our DigiCoaches. So our J and JD. So we've been talking about this for a while. So this is the funded from MSD who come through, and they've been doing an absolute wonderful job down there. Mostly helping people with mobile phones seem to be the most popular one. How do I get my emails on my phone? How do I get it from I've taken a picture, but I want to be able to actually print it or email it or do something with it. So that's the most common ones. Quite a few people popping in about CVs and getting ready for interviews, those sorts of things too. And we've actually responded to that one because there were some people asking for support on that. And of course, this was a Monday to Friday thing. And so now they've actually started doing some alternating to actually give some Saturday morning cover as well, which is great. Happening to some people, because just because you are working doesn't mean you actually are totally okay with all of these digital things. Skinny Jump. Now, I've talked about Skinny Jump before, but some of you might not have been here for that. So Skinny Jump is a modem that is provided for $5, and that gives people a modem for home for $5. It gives, I can't remember how many gigabytes that goes with that. It can be extended. You can buy another $5, another $5 up to 25. And it's bought in, so Skinny sponsor that, it's subsidised. It just means that people who can't afford necessarily to put fibre on or anything major, I know, as far as the Wi-Fi goes, have access to it, particularly for kids doing their homework from school or other bits. So you've got to be eligible for it. We have a waiting list, so many in an area. It's all done on connectivity and how many can go into it. But what we did find was that we had some of these people would come and sign up for them and take them away and then bring them back a couple of months later because they really couldn't get it working themselves and do that. So with J&J Dean, they're actually helping people with not only putting it on, but actually getting it setting up and making sure it's working and everything too. So that's been brilliant. Our oldest person who's come into see J&J Dean has been 95 that we know of, because they came and told us that they're 95. They may have been older, but there's also been people right down in their 30s and up. So it's just an interesting one on where those gaps are in technology for using those things. They are rolling out the virtual reality headsets too. So you'll hear more about that in May. And our upcoming activities. I think most of you know that we have MSD doing some bookable clinics at Cheviot and Amuri. Some of you may not know that. So that was a trial. It's still finite, so it's provided by MSD. We make the computer space available. They send someone in to help people get on, and it goes straight through to their caseworkers in Rangiora. So that's a really great service, and hopefully that will continue to keep going. May is Music Month, so it's New Zealand Music Month. So that one's been in Gornbell Ken Rovers, but do pop along and you'll hear all sorts of things playing. And the same with the International Tea Day, you'll hear again about this. We've just had an amazing one in Cheviot, so you'll hear all about that one next month as well. But the Amberley Library one's coming up. So if you want to play Scrabble, have a cup of tea and pop down, it's a good day. It's a good afternoon. So pop on that one. World Knit and Public Day. I know we all look forward to this one. This is the highlight of the calendar, and I'm sure you're all looking forward to this one. I don't know how many years we've been doing this now, but it's been a few. It's surprising, but it's one that we have people. We set it up in the library. The knitters groups come in, they do this, and then people actually just pop in and they just join in. But it has become quite a nice little social spin-off that goes with that for some people who are looking for those social interactions. Then we get down to the Drop and Bug Day that's coming to the Hamner Library for school holidays. That's a partnership with the Purunui Biodiversity Trust. They've set that up with the museum. So real bugs coming in, but hopefully dead. Chinese Language Week, and the last thing to tell you about is, once again, we are being a pre-polling booth for the elections this year. So in years gone by, we have opened the library spaces as for early polling. Generally on the actual polling day, we send them down to the schools, but that will be happening again.
Thank you very much. If you've got any questions, thank you very much. We'll go to page 40 now, and Dan, not there, take us through
the ministry's report for last month. Yeah, one of the main focuses was on Anzac Day and all the ceremonies around the district. Yeah, the team have a lot of effort to make sure that everything's looking really good and presentable. I think they did a great job. Everything, went down the hitch. So that was one of the main focuses. The other thing is that every year the team get a plan of all the routine tasks they need to do. We've sort of managed to catch up a bit, and currently on track to deliver that. So fingers crossed there won't be too much reactive work over the next couple of months, but all going well, we're on track to deliver that. In terms of the key metrics, the grass growth's still getting away us a wee bit, which is surprising. It definitely has slowed down, but definitely last month there's a few sites here out of the 17 different sites audited.
five failed, so yeah, still quite a high failure rate. So, but ideally that'll go down as we head towards winter. If we move over to page 41, there's a few graphs which pretty much take what's in the metrics, but yeah, one that's worth looking at is the CSRs, how that's really starting to trend down. We always find that during the summer, it's a busy time of year for the guys and get lots of CSRs out, and we are quite reactive. As we get towards the winter, they slow down, which is good. So it gives the team a chance to break, like I said, concentrate on those routine tasks. In terms of upcoming activities, yeah, the quarterly playground inspections are what we can undertake at the moment. We're planning on taking in May, and yeah, that's just vital bit of work just to ensure that all the playgrounds are fit for purpose. Any of the key maintenance activities are identified and planned in over the coming year, so they're getting underway at the moment. There's a few photos on bottom 41 and 42, just showing some of the great work the team have done around the district. Yeah, welcome any questions on those or anything else in this report.
Oh, compliment the ladies on the one up at Foster Place, because I know that's a pretty intense cow.
Yeah.
It's not a wee job.
It's not.
I know we're on about mowing all season. Yeah, they did a fantastic job at NZ Day getting around, especially the local ones up there, but I do notice they haven't been back since, and as you say, grass growth slowed down, but it just seems to mean slower in getting back. Do we actually have a better plan going forward next season?
Well, we're keeping the pressure on, and highlighting it. I think it's been unfortunate that the whole district's had growth. It's been a bit of like the old whack-a-mole. One problem here, they focused and it grows elsewhere. Typically it's been a bit of variability in the seasons. So no, we just have to keep a bit of discussions, do our audits. The overall KPI for the year is dropping. But it's yes how they perform over the whole year. So we'll just keep audits them and making sure we're doing enough of them to reflect what's happening on the ground. And just keep having those discussions and make sure the resources here when it's supposed to be here.
Can I just add, Mr. Chair, there's also with the establishment of the water company, Dan was obviously going to go and work there. So there would be something just having a rethink about how the amenities would be managed going forward. So that's also brought into question about how we do work. I guess closer. You'll have heard how the close proximity between the roading team and Cord of proven dividends. And that's something else that's top of my mind at the moment is about, well, if we're starting to see the benefits of doing that with Cord, then why shouldn't we be doing that with Delta for our mowing, OCS for our toilets, waste control? Sally has a really good relationship with them and you never hear about them. So yeah, top of mind at the moment is mowing and working, having a better working relationship on it. Now we've got to look at how we might facilitate that, but I think that that's probably what's needed in this space.
Has there been any discussions of doing it in-house?
Mr. Chair, no, not really. Some loose conversations about in-house, but it's about a large capital investment up front. That's probably something that we haven't got too much thought into purely for that reason.
When you say in-house, are you talking council or local contract?
I was thinking more council, but maybe it's a mix of both.
Sorry, I took it purely as in-house, but if we go back 10 years, 10 years it was done by, we had 6 contracts across the district, which we, over the last 2 contracts, we've morphed into one single one, but we did have 6 contracts. It was a discrete contract per area within the district, and they could have been picked up by individuals. But going back even further than that, yes, it was done by local groups, local contractors.
Steve wants to put his hand up. That brings to mind, through the chair, Dan, that brings to mind, would it be something we should possibly at least look at so that we know whether to go that way or not?
Well, Mr. Chair, it's certainly so, if there's a desire to do it, the reason why we went away from it is we put 6 contracts out.
Yeah.
And all 6 contracts were picked up by Delta.
Oh, okay.
So that was how that was probably 9 years ago now. And for that reason, because there's lower overheads in terms of management, it's easier to have one throat choke, one arse kick, so to speak, in terms of one contractor.
Yep.
But if you've got 6, then we need more resources in-house to be able to manage that.
Okay. So in response to that makes sense. It's an economic decision that works more efficiently. Thank you. Perfect.
Through you, Mr. Chair, although I would imagine that in Waipara they'd be looking to do something different because in this last round their lawn mowing has become ridiculously expensive for some reason in this last round, and it's unsustainable at that level.
Mr. Chair, so the issue that Glenmark Domain specifically experienced was it being offset by cemetery mowing and other reserve mowing. So when they got the true cost of it, it was horrifically expensive in comparison to what they have been paying.
Yes.
So they've taken a different approach. I think they get mowed on request now as opposed to a routine.
They will be waiting for a new pricing overall though, won't they? Hasn't actually reduced the price much, I don't think, is it?
Oh, that's what they've opted. So instead of having a monthly mow to keep up, they've opted to, I think locals are mowing it when it gets too long. But if there's an event there, then they pay the ultimate for them last month.
Through Mr. Chair, but continue to pay the annual fee. The total cost, it hasn't reduced, has it? For them, they get them in to do it once in a while, or has that $10,000 or $8,000, what it is, being dropped down? Anyway, we can work that out another time. I'm just saying if it's still going to cost them that much, they will be looking for another option.
But the line is always been separate from the contract, and they have their own contract.
Sorry, just to be clear with everybody, so one of the other reasons why we steered away from smaller groups, smaller contractors, is because of our requirements, particularly around health and safety, have become probably perceived as quite onerous by some smaller contractors. They've got a lot of hoops to jump through in order to qualify to meet our requirements to do work on behalf of council, and that's another reason for the demise of those new contracts. It just wasn't seen as economically viable for them.
No, that's me. I can move on if you like.
If you can have to move on.
Excellent. The program report. Lots of construction is still happening around the district. A few of the highlights, so including the summary, we are still a bit of water main going in Amberley, Ashley, and also at Harden by Carrick. One thing that's progressed quite well, especially this month, is the new reservoir at Wairoa, which is a really remote site. Took a lot of work put an access track in there, which could get a concrete truck up, so it had a lot of work getting there to get the concrete on site. That's been poured, the guys that need it flying really putting that together. So hopefully that'll be built by the end of this month and then commissioned the one after. In terms of the project spend, we're on track. We're about sitting where we expect to sit. May and June are always our busiest months, largest months in terms of spend. Sometimes not in terms of work, but in terms of getting all the invoicing through, all the final accounts sealed and things like that. So a lot of invoicing is done in May, June, and this year will be no different to the past few years as well. Moving on to page 44. In terms of the upcoming activities and plans, I've noted a few of the jobs which are going on. So it's just a couple to highlight. So we started some footpath renewals in Glenmark Drive. First bit of concrete was poured yesterday, which is great. So they've got a little section poured, and then they'll carry on to do that for the remainder of the month. Once that's complete, they come to Carter's Road here in Amberley. Another one that's progressing actually ahead of plan, which is always great to say, is the Village Green Playground. So the equipment's sort of been arriving in drips and drabs, and what the lead times were initially told have actually been shortened, which is fantastic. So as the equipment's arriving, we're installing it in place. So I went for a drive past this morning, and there was 3 bits already in, which was fantastic. So it was awesome to see, and all the surrounding paths. So yeah, once that equipment's put in place, we can then start putting the wet pour material down. So that's progressing really well and will look fantastic. So it's actually great to see some progress down there. Amberley wastewater upgrade. So at the moment we're doing some preliminary designs to determine what reactor plant we need to build. So what we're doing is we've got a couple of designs for different types of plants. We've engaged the QS who's going to go away and price those, which will then help us to determine which one is going to be not also cheapest in terms of capital, but also operating cost as well, because these things do cost a lot to operate. So yeah, we're doing quite a bit of work that at the moment, and hopefully be able to come back with some costings in the next month or so. Page 45, there's a few snapshots of some of the work that's been undertaken over the past month in the district. And following that, there's just the appendix which goes in the report, which shows the capital program and which projects have been completed so far. So you're welcome any questions with anything in the report or any of the projects.
I was going to ask about the playground, but I'm excited to go and look now.
Worth a try, yeah.
Yeah.
Not sure which, well, I think it must come under here somewhere. Could I ask around spraying around the footpaths? Is that something new? I haven't noticed before, but seems to be varying success with that.
Yeah, I've seen some photos of years what looks like overspray. Users, yeah, just awesome liking. So no, I don't have an answer off the top of my head why those edges have been sprayed, but we're looking into it. It's been passed through. Never been an issue before, apart from this spray around family.
So was it around lichen on the footpath, or
I'd have to find out. As well, yeah. I said requests to come through because yeah, was a few had asked. They'd never been an issue before, so we're finding out what's happened.
Yeah, fine, that's fine. So you've got all to go through, you've taken that through.
I'll take that one as read unless there's any specific questions.
Yeah, just sorry, through the chair, if I may, page 47. To 6 odd. Amberley Beach investigation for proactive relocation to assess infrastructure needs. Is this just part of that ongoing thing that we're doing down there?
Yeah, so this one, this one changed. This was put into the LTP, originally, what are we gonna do? I guess since the purchase of the land, that superseded that, so this one just pretty much involved, giving feedback to the development engineer and internal staff so they can progress verification.
Sure. Supplementary question, how are we going with that? Oh, you're right, I'll do that later, thank you. Sorry.
Just something, right? Picked up on page 48 and the bottom, south, we just need to update that budget figure. We've changed that or increased that. But that was
That would be increased, but I think Jason put that for next financial year, that number.
right, so okay, it'll roll over there, that's cool.
Well, I can give an update on that if you wanted to.
Oh, yeah.
We've got a expressive interest out, which is where the contractors for the last few questions, they submit applications showing, how they answer their questions, how they do the works, the program, so that closes on Thursday. From that, we'll then shortlist 3 or 4 contractors, depending on the amount of interest we get, and then go out and seek pricing from those selected ones, so which will probably take another 3 weeks or so. So by mid next month, we'll have a number, and ideally a program start date as well. So it's all great. It's all tracking along well, which is great. That's me.
That's you.
Yep.
That's you. Thank you very much for that, And not, 12:30, but I'm determined to charge up on the front of this one. I think we can box on and see how we go. Thank you, it was Joseph, page 53 of the development.
Tummy rumbles. Thank you for giving me an update on the community table where April took us. I always struggle, I find it quite hard to draw on points from the reports, but I'm going to do my best not to drill through everything and just pull out a few key things. And I actually mentioned at the last update around the AMI driveway revival, which obviously happened in April when I reported for March, so apologies, but just to mention the first one there, the AMI driver revival that took place at the beginning of this last month for Easter was the highest turnout to date, 600, just over 600 through, 265 coffees made, 94 coffees made, sorry. I also mentioned at the last update that MR Road Safety Coordinator was also exploring State Highway 7 for King's birthday weekend, but looking at statistics and traffic flow are going to continue with her on average for the upcoming June driving revival. I just want to acknowledge this week is National Youth Week, and its theme is Our Voice Matters, We Deserve to Be Heard, which leads me into talking a little bit about some of the Youth Council activity. They've had various workshops, and I think under the Youth Development Officer Kim's guidance this year have been very active in their portfolios outside of their official meetings. So I just want to highlight a few of those to you. They're working alongside Rena Herbert, our biodiversity officer, around an ongoing planting project in Amberley, where the new subdivision out Douglas Road is that connects to the Amberley domain. So they're exploring funding opportunities there to provide some an ongoing planting project there. The careers transition portfolio are picking up from last year, their year 7 and 8 project that were delivered with 4 primary schools. And they've opened that up to some of the other primaries in the district, and that focuses on some of the youth leaders, the 16, 17-year-olds, sharing their insights as to what moving on to high school looks like and how to best prepare for that. It also gives the young people in the primary schools some introduction to the youth programme. So when they turn 12, they know who some of the key people are, and aids that kind of engagement once they hit that age milestone. The cultural competency group are busy planning the Wainanga, which takes place at Takahanga Marae in July. That leads up, that's during Matariki week, which is very good timing. That is oversubscribed already, that oversubscribed within about a week of going live, with some of the young people applying who went last year, noting quite life-changing experiences through that opportunity. So we're currently in discussions with a few external funders to see if we can expand that to provide more places. The road safety group are working with our road safety coordinator, Emma, and the Schools Against Dangerous Driving programme, and they planned, which they've done already, but they planned for Road Safety Week, some sessions in school using the beer goggles where you navigate courses to show impairment if you're under the influence. That's a May thing, but it has been planned, it has happened. And then finally, there's an intergenerational project working with our age-friendly community facilitator, Vanessa, and the Youth Council, and they're doing various projects, planning projects for the rest of the year. One particular one including around Grandparent Day. What would your advice to your 16-year-old self be? So they're going to do some interviewing with older persons, and hopefully should be some quite good Kororo video in there. So moving down the summary, we mentioned there the Minister for the Older Persons briefing, Better Later Life, in Christchurch. That took place on the 15th of April, and Vanessa, our coordinator, attended that. They showcased their action plan nationally, which is focusing on health services, housing and the cost of living. So it aligns quite well with our age-friendly plan, and there's quite a lot of sort of discussion around what opportunities, not necessarily just funding, but what other opportunities might come through that action plan that we can facilitate at a local level. Together Hurunui stakeholder HUIs continue to provide multi-agency connections. We have talked in previous updates about the cost of living, but this is really still coming through very strongly, particularly schools making really tough decisions on whether they go to tournaments and events and things outside of the area, because the bus hire has gone up 50%. In some instances, so some schools have cancelled some cross-school events, which is a real shame obviously for those schools and young people. But also one of the stakeholder who is Chile in Breton Valley, they were citing parents also making decisions to not attend extracurricular activities that often take place in Rangiora because of that challenge of juggling the fuel costs. So that really just highlights for us that need to continue our local provision and supporting local pop-ups and whatever opportunities to grow those connections for families and our young people locally. You recently heard from Naomi about numbers, the active member numbers in the library, which we've in our team, we're now working quite a bit closer with our libraries because we have a real natural synergy and connection with community. So seeking more opportunities there above and beyond what we're currently doing. Looking onto that metrics form, you'll see there's a higher number of April activities, and that's really testament to the school holiday programme. So each holiday programme, we obviously have a peak in activity because the team run 2 weeks of activities. They introduced a Work Ready 101 this year, which was really popular with young people, particularly the mock interviews. And then they had some really good personal challenging opportunities, getting out and surf, Adrenaline Forest, and heading into Christchurch, which are always popular trips for our young people. Turning over the page, just a note about the MTFJ, it continues to be really consistently placing and supporting young people into employment. A reflection of this ongoing success, so just been awarded another 30k the remainder of this financial year to support more young people into placements. And I think, excuse me, That's real testament to Anna, our MTFJ coordinator, the relationship with Mari as a mayor, sort of spearheading the programme, and our local businesses that are really seeing where they can support and wanting to support our young people alongside the relationship with Rangiora MSD office. Nationally, not all those relationships are as strong. I think we're really lucky that the strength of the mayor, the coordinator, and MSD in particular are really good. And I mean, we wouldn't be able to offer any of this without our local businesses and people wanting to give young people a go. I'll highlight some of the training that the coordinator's been initiating. Excuse me. One in particular, a need to support young people with barista training to go into work in local cafes. We know that sometimes the young people get some training but aren't always proficient when they enter those roles. So we've Anna has built a relationship with Northbound Cafe to use the facilities out of hours to do some one-on-one coaching and training with the young people to just try and support their transition. And these are two young people who've been offered positions, but they just need a little bit of upskilling. And that saves us, the programme, $1,000 per person if they were to go into Christchurch and access that training. For those that don't know, our coordinator comes with a background in teaching barista, so we're quite lucky to just lean on that skill. But it's really, I guess, the benefit of that the localness of MTFJ and what it can do. There's some graphs and visualizations there. I think they speak for themselves and continue to show the food insecurity that some of our community are facing with the increase in food bank use access, particularly rise of solo people living in shared households, but also two income earning parents, working families that are accessing food banks now. So they're seeing a real change in that client group. Then we'll look over, there's some photos of the AMI drive provider that I mentioned, some snapshots of that on a quite bleak day, but they got a good foot traffic through, and then the holiday program there too. Under the emerging issues, again, I'll take it that you've read those, but there's some continuing themes around our food security, around our ageing population and how we support and remove barriers, particularly technology, which again, the library are doing some really great work in that space with the digital tech coaches. Our continual advocacy in that space. Then moving more positively on to opportunities, I think our welcoming communities in schools, there's been a lot around the diversity campaign, which is really providing really positive connections with not just the young people in schools, but their families coming together. I've mentioned there the barista training. The recent stakeholder hui, Amberley Medical, noting that their staffing situation is quite steady and consistent now, which is really good. They've got a new health practitioner on board. Often they've reported their sort of staff shortages, but seem to be in a, I don't know, jinx that, seem to be in a nice position there. And then the last one, which unfortunately Mari's not here to talk to, but I will. There's been some district-wide collaboration around trying to get some older person social worker support. So the 5 medical centres, Mari and Natalie are together, Huranui facilitator, working together to put forward an application to fund a social worker for our district following support from Presbyterian support that went a couple of years ago. And yesterday they got the good news that that full funding application from DIA has been granted. So that's just a really great piece of collaborative work amongst medical centres and our teams, and just advocating for things that are being heard in those stakeholder huis and then putting it into action. So really excited to see that. We've got we'll have somebody in our district really advocating and working alongside our older persons. And then you'll see there's a table of upcoming events and activities, and we're halfway through May, so we'll update those on the next.
Yeah, thanks, through the chair. Joe, I'm just gonna take you back to page 51 and the pretty sobering graphs there. As you said, they speak for themselves, but you know, to look at the meal equivalents, 3,000 more meals from this time last year to now, and I mean, I know a lot of that will be, you know, directly linked to what's happening in the Middle East and the fuel crises and et cetera, et cetera. And I guess then I'm just looking at the accompanying graph with the colours there. You know, I'm a Southwood councillor, so I'm connected to Amberley and I teach in Waipara, and I'm just looking there at and wondering, the Waipara chunk is a very similar size to the Amberley chunk, and I just wonder what the population difference is, and then I guess from that I'm thinking around other than the support that our food banks are giving, what else? So, you know, I know like with, I work with Community Wellbeing, North Canterbury, you know, the food banks are providing, and then attached to that is, you know, can we help you with this to alleviate, you know, some of that situation moving forward? Do we have anything like that happening? And can you allude to the, I mean, when it says Waipara, I'm going to make an assumption, but you'll correct me, that it's the area served by that food bank. So maybe the disparity in populations are not so concerning.
So through the chair, if I can, in answer to that first point and last point, it is the area specific is my understanding, but I will get some clarity on how that's determined. My understanding is when someone requests a food parcel, it's that those stats are drawn by address, which is significantly high, but also noting that all our food banks are based in this area as well. So the reach, you know, includes Cheviot and Hammer Springs and YO, but they are based more locally, so you could make an assumption they possibly serve their local areas, you know, closest areas more frequently. But I will follow up and get exact word on that, because I so that I could be definitive. In response to your second.
Oh, sorry, you were carrying on. Sorry.
Just in response to that second point. So Haranui College is an example, an Amberley school, where they've seen the food in schools particularly, and looked at, well, what can they do, what, you know, what's going on. So Haranui College have engaged family through food, through coming in and helping make sandwiches and things like that, having conversations to understand what this barrier is around food, and what education supports that they can work alongside families to mitigate, and where they could advocate. Amberley School have run, now they're running 2 breakfast clubs, not just for the children, but for families as well, to just increase those connections, because often food is just an indicator of other things going on. So they're actively building those relationships and community conversations. With the food bank specifically, they do ask, you know, they have conversations with their clients when they order a parcel or when they deliver it, to see if there's other supports that can be put in place, and they're often advocating with budgeting services, with
exactly
other
what I'm
services
thinking.
too. Yeah. So the food banks are very much take on more of a pastoral role than they do just simply distributing food.
Yeah, because I know, like, as part of the education, you know, we're trying to educate how to grow food so that they will, but I'm really concerned to see those figures.
So just to reiterate through the chair, that this is obviously our food insecurity space, and then there's work happening in the food security space.
sure.
Because it has to be balanced, but it is, these figures are definitely concerning that they're continuing to trend upwards.
Yes. Thanks.
Firstly, I apologize for interrupting you before. Just through to share a quick question. I'm just intrigued with that, on page 51, that diagram there, the spikes in each of those usages almost identical for different areas, you know, be it July and then November and then late November and then April. What would attribute to those almost identical in each of those areas, the spikes and the drops? Why do you think that is? About 3 months.
They're actually school holidays.
Is that what that
School
means?
holidays. So July, October, April,
And so that pressure comes on at that period. Okay, thanks.
where the food in schools is not available.
Right.
Yeah, sorry, I jumped in there, Joe, but if you've got another explanation.
Through the chair, that's.
I appreciate it. Okay, thank you.
I'm just thinking about food and councils at the moment. Any further questions for Joe and you've got your report this time. Appreciate that. No further questions. I think we'll stop pretty quick. I think we're back ready to go at 4:15. I think we've got 2 more reports to do and the PE minutes and the shops after that. So. Okay, welcome back, operations meeting part 2. If we draw your attention to page 54 and ask Andrew if we can come page 2.
He's not good on names.
He's not good on names today, it's all right, Terry.
That's all right. Andrew wears a pink shirt, so next time maybe a pink shirt.
I was just going by my notes here.
Here everyone, afternoon. Just a report from the planning team. We've issued 10 resource consents during this period, of which 7 were land use and 3 were subdivisions.
And there were two section 224 certificates issued during the period. I guess the one to the major updates at the bottom, the one big resource consent issued was Everlasting Estates to Torra, 42 lots. The consent has been issued and they've started the works on the ground there. I estimate maybe a year and things we'll have titles possibly, just depends on how long the engineering works take. That's just speaking out of turn. And then the other one that is interesting is it says that the preparation for the hearing is going ahead as planned and is all on track. As you're all aware, it was adjourned yesterday and the meetings went well. That's all I have. They've adjourned as opposed to closed, so there is the option for the commissioner to ask for additional information. So there may be some time. They did say they were needing additional site visits, and I suspect that'll be this week. They said they would be issuing time, and then after that, they've got 70 days to get through so it's still a while to go before they get through the actual decision process. Yeah.
Steve.
Chris.
Thank you. Through the chair. We had our roading people in here earlier today. Just wondering with the consenting side of things, I don't know if this falls under your umbrella or not, but we're having delays in consenting with the need for taking shingle and stuff out of the rivers in accordance to their business plans. Does that come under your umbrella to look at that sort of thing? It doesn't. This is ECAN stuff, is it?
Yeah, a lot of that is all ECAN stuff.
That's what I thought. I just thought I'd ask the question. Thank you. Leave it there.
Thank you, through the chair. This is more a question just for my understanding than anything else. When it comes to resource consents being put through you, obviously you're looking at how they meet the various planning regulations and applications and all the rest of it. Is there any part of that resource consent that then carries out any due diligence on the individuals or the company that are submitting that resource consent? So is there anything that would flag up as a trigger to say this company or these individuals are bad actors in previous business dealings and therefore that triggers a negative for the resource? Or is it purely around?
You take the information at hand because you are not, what's the word, prejudging the situation based on the people putting the applications. So you take it with the information that you have and the information that's presented to you. Further to that, in that process, there is a process to ask for further information if clarification is required, and that comes through the processing officer. So once it's in, then the processing officer decides what processes or additional information is required, but taking into the previous history of an application or an applicant is not regarded as part of that application as it stands.
So supplementary to that through the chair then, so we could have a resource consent submitted that hits and ticks all of the boxes. It goes all the way through the system. We grant the resource consent to somebody, and yet that individual is somebody of extremely bad character. We as a council have now approved something for an individual or a company that are of significantly bad character, and that could go all the way through. Is that?
In principle, yes, but the tick boxes that are there is that there would be conditions on a consent, so it depends on the type of application, and then there would be compliance issues with the conditions of the consent.
Thank you.
Through the chair. So to follow on Councillor Stevens' question. So therefore, the due diligence doesn't cover personality or persons or companies. Is that my understanding?
That is correct. In the submission of the application, yes.
The submission. On the thoughts as far as supplementary, on the thoughts as far as putting in a approval or restrictions to a consent, will due diligence then be given or swayed on the company directors, not the persons, but the directors and their company history? Does that reflect as well, or does that not become part of it either?
It's a pea soup kind of answer. On the surface, it would be no, it wouldn't come into consideration because there could be a whole swathe of other factors involved. But the processing officer at the time may, under different circumstances, look, but it prejudicious the situation, which they can't do based on the people.
Prejudicial.
Thank you. That it's prejudicial on the process of the people that have done it. So the example that would come to mind, someone that's been previously blacklisted, you couldn't take that previous blacklisting into consideration of making a decision on the current consent that they've applied for.
Thank you.
Kerry, the Mount Cass up there, given that there's already an awful lot of heavy equipment up there busy beavering away, are they all up to time? There's going to be no hold-ups for them, but they put everything in on time to keep plugging away.
Yes, they have. Yes, they have. The one issue that has, so they just recently had one of these consents is for the road work up there. They've had to sort out their road up there, the private road, and that's in process. So that's being organised. From a planning perspective, everything's good to go. I do know that the building team have been talking about the actual individual towers needing building consents, but that's outside of that. That's that. I'm way out of my swim lane on that one. Yeah.
I believe the founds are doing quite well.
Do you have any further questions on planning?
I have one, sorry, Steve again, sorry, through the chair. We heard from our building team just earlier today, and we noticed a bit of a downturn in the consent requests going forward for building and development. Is there anything in our planning side, do you think, that could help enhance and encourage for people to look more favourably on developing here and try and get that? I know the industry is a bit flat. Do you think there's anything out there that we can do in planning that could help kickstart or assist building to push things along a wee bit?
Yeah, it's a combination. In listening to what Kerry was saying, there is an availability. The whole of that Hamlet Riverside has come online, and it's a case of where those are and just getting those started off. We've had the dip now that the clearing's kind of being finalised. They've got their 223 application, and we've just approved the road names for the new clearings that are coming through there. So that's going to come online. So there's just a little bit of a time lag between the big boom that we've had and then more lots coming on. To answer your question more directly, I think the master town plan for Amby is going to play a role with that in making things available with the smaller lots. The Totara development is going to be 142 lots coming there. So I think it's just a time lag at the moment that we have in how things here. But outside of that, I think we're doing well for what we've got with the timelines.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Are we likely to have any issues with things changing in vineyards heading north east or right through? Does that give planning any extra problems or not?
Not really. Those will all stay rural. It's all the Waipara wine growing area one, and that's been ring fenced off. Those would be significant barriers to jump through. as has been seen through the solar farm, to be changing any of those land use. That's the highly productive land would be, that's definitely high bars to go through for people, just particularly to smaller lots. Any sort of private plan change to get residential lots up there, I think would be met with significant opposition.
So close to home, our standard road area, is that? There was problems there.
I don't think so, no. It doesn't form part of that greater master plan for the Amberley area as well, so, yeah.
Is there any further questions?
Thanks, Jim.
Now, if we could go to page 25 and ask you.
May I ask, has everyone read this one page?
Yes.
Take us read.
Very good. Very good. I'll just have a quick run through. Small team, I think we're 1.875 FTEs, so working hard and diligently to get the job done. I see here working around public holidays, there's extra stuff to put out and extra work to do there, much like the rest of the hard-working HTC team. Belle's doing some wonderful work around nature and the environment, a lot of interaction with the Huranui Biodiversity Trust, which is exciting. I would also say very recently, probably falls out of the remit of April, however, great response to some work going on in Leithfield Beach, of which I am now a resident, and can truly appreciate that work going on in the area. So people really like that kind of stuff. Big thing I've been trying to get processes in place, get stuff up to scratch, improve assets, both physical and digital, and our comms request system, which has been a long time in the making, is up and running now. Folks are using it, which is good. A few need to get on board, so we're working with them to do that. I've said here, just knowing what's happening, how many jobs we've got, what sort of time it's taking to do stuff, and also where we might need additional support, whether that's inside council or outside council, for some of the bigger jobs. Hannah working hard with the planning team on that environmental scale. Metrics, you can see there, previously when we were using Excel, which was, excuse my French, a pain. Previously we were on the, we had about sort of 45 requests coming in November as an example, and then you might see it's gone down to about 28 in March, and then now we're up at about 70. We had sort of like a transition period between, I would say, a paper and pen approach to things. Now we've actually got a system which is tracking stuff, which is fantastic. I think these numbers will sort of even out. Currently, we might break a particular job down into specific parts. If it's a big campaign, there might be an ad, there might be some social media, there might be a media release, and that might count potentially here as 3 jobs against 1 campaign. But that'll even out in the wash as we go. Good number of Facebook, heaps of stories going on the web and the intranet. Antenno is probably the big star, I will say, or the star in waiting at least. I was asked by a colleague potentially to look at where we were at with SnapSend Solve, because I want to compare apples with apples, and it is difficult because they are different beasts at least. And I had a chat with Cynthia, and she said that they stopped doing the recording on reports in around about November last year when Antenno came on stream. So we can look here, peak, the figures she gave me. You don't have access to this, sorry, I thought I'd save something up for when I sit at the table.
peak, December, January, 2024-2025, they had about 139 reports coming in per month for that. And then probably got to, we had a low of about 60 in June for that period, 2024-2025. And it ended around about 100, 104, 100 across September, October, November 2025. So where we're at the moment, if you look at the reports, we're in 10 over there for April, we've got 54. I think that's a great sort of bit of work for, you know, the first couple of months, where it's a new system and people getting to understand it. Heaps of work to be done, heaps of opportunities, heaps more we can put out about it, heaps more work to get people both internally and externally to understand how we can use it. I think it's going to be a great tool. There is a rebrand. This is helpful. There is a rebrand happening in July. Fortunately, it's just the colour.
Oh,
You know, any you like, as long as it's purple. So there's there, and you can see the app installs, because it's now our chosen reporting tool. The app installs have gone up as well. Potential challenges and risks, I guess, to you guys, running the gauntlet on some of the responses on social media and what people think, whether informed or uninformed. Mill Road was a classic one. Rates going out. Water harvesting not too bad. Possibly Councillor Jones, his wonderful picture by his
Yes.
worked well. And one would hope with the draft annual plan engagement document, which you guys have seen signed off, that's gone out. Hopefully people will be better informed about how we're planning to spend money in the coming year. Big thing when I talk about, even though if I've gone on too much, and improving assets, both physical and digital, upskilling people, video, I sort of touch on the insights, but doing more video is a big thing. And a mayor out playing basketball, not sure if you've seen.
I haven't seen that one.
I'm obviously not doing a good enough job. You do need to catch it. It's the promo video for the annual draft plan engagement document, and the reasons that you should read it. Obviously, we needed a hook, or at least I think it was something like 5 layups in a row. Couldn't get slammed back with a 3-pointer, but you know, there's always work to be done in this instance. The essence is people like faces, people like personalities, people like something that they can look at and see and go, yep, I know that person, make them more personable. Even, you know, the work that Bells did with you guys pre-Christmas was fantastic. So we've been using Ringiora company Momac, we've done some stuff with before. They've helped us on the Amberley Household Glass Recycling Project, which is exciting. You will see one of your very own appearing in that come end of May. A stunning job Councillor Hutt has done on that too. And they're also going to be upskilling us video training, so we are able to shoot more of that piece to cam stuff. Just ultimately bring up the quality of the output, really put our best foot forward. So got in April, we were talking about household glass recycling rollout that's coming up, a bit more water harvesting, looking at the feedback that comes back from the draft annual plan. There'll be a bit of work going into how we explain to our residents about simplifying local government. That will be an interesting one, but an incredibly important one. That's what I got. Thank you.
Through the chair, nice to see. Quick, with regards to the Waco, Westco, wow, the water thing.
That's the one.
Thank you.
Chris.
That'll do. The question is, have we got a campaign going out to kind of educate our locals regarding that? Is there anything beyond what's happening?
Through the chair, funny you should mention that, have been working solidly with Kaikoura District Council to produce a number of pieces of material. Just so happens that going out today, a beautiful newsletter has been produced, which you shall see very shortly. 6 pages of where we've come from, what we're doing, where we're going. Also, there's 2 versions here. There's a Kaikoura one, which talks about their costs, and the Huranui version, which gives our updated rates in there too. It's kind of it's a catch-all. It's just to bring everyone up to speed. And I think this pricing, more specifically for the Kaikoura audience, who I think have got a bit more of a mountain to climb, to explain why and what we're doing. Probably the next bit is we're also working on the website, which I guess eventually will come under the shared services agreement for the company. So producing that. So it's been, no, not piecemeal. It's been sort of on a monthly basis. We've been having communications going out to the audiences about what we're up to.
Thank you. Did I see your hand?
Yeah, you did. Thank you through the chair. Just in regards to the Anteno snaps in solve, because Huranui residents are really good snaps in solvers once we got them onto it. And I don't know if your comms team's responsible for this. This is outstanding.
Thank you.
This came to councillors this morning, and I kindly asked Nathan to copy me some off, because there it is. There's what you do, taking it to the community meetings. So I think that's, that's a really good piece of paper that I can take to those people who aren't on social media, or they haven't read it in their rates pack or whatever, who do go to those meetings. Here you go, do it while you're here. So yeah, just wanted to compliment on that.
Thank you.
Good job.
Is there an opportunity for that for our core community committees?
100%.
Well, it came to councillors, and I just said to Nathan, hey, can I have 20 copies? And I'll just, take them where I go.
Through the chair at Vanessa Nelms and our community-led development team, she actually asked for this for the Amberley Friendship Group.
Yep.
And it was thus produced from information which we had, which needed to be updated. It was incredibly timely, as I was reminded by a member of staff. Where are we at with this? And I went, oh, still so much to do on it. However, we did have this document produced, which we can send out. I think we are guilty sometimes of being deep in it, or at least talking to an external audience, and sometimes we forget about our own internal communication, which I'll take on board. But however, Nathan's got it, staff have got it, we can provide that very easily.
I think
as
it's a good
needed.
idea, Mari, because
Into our community committees. If that's PC, I think we should, it's a good choice to.
Yeah.
Because their voice will be one more powerful than our voices.
Yep.
If they can roll it throughout the communities as well.
I've got a same sort of question. Facebook, a couple of things that I've really noticed lately. One was a comment around Lakeside Water, reaction got, and the other was around Mill Road. And what I noticed is if you put on anything there and you get in an initial aggressive stance in one direction or the other, the whole line will follow that. it seems that someone that has a different view just sits back and, well, what's going on there? So I wonder how we weight it sometimes doesn't necessarily give you a good balanced view if it starts off with a particularly strong stance in one direction or the other. Comment, question.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a great response.
That's the right response. I would give
It was a
exactly the same.
rhetorical question.
Where's got the answer?
Well, I think it actually should be, but through the chair, sorry. Why do we have or give the ability to comment on those things? Surely surely what we're doing is we're just advising what we're doing. I can see no benefit in allowing comments on it because that's all it descends into. It should just be a platform to advise, and you can go to this area if you need to get further clarification, but the comments just become a bloodbath.
But that was Facebook.
But yeah,
We don't have to.
We don't have a say over that, and it
no,
wasn't-
but what I'm
we didn't
switch off
table it.
comments.
Sorry,
I don't know, can
we
you?
didn't do it. Mark Patterson did. He and his team from the National Party put that out.
Just a thought.
It's about 376 negative statements.
Through the chair, with due diligence, I'm personally interested to follow those two things up. Potentially, how could you steer the conversation in the right direction without overtly jumping on, the opposite bandwagon? And also the reasons, for Councillor Jones, the reasons for and against providing comment. My personal belief is giving people an opportunity, but you are correct. I can follow those up for next time.
I was just thinking, sometimes the counter argument to denying people a chance to vent is that we would, whereas a council, we don't want to hear from anybody that has a different opinion to our own, so I think there are, we could swing both ways on that one. I understand the sentiment, but we could also be criticised, and I think we just need to be cautious about that as well. Yeah, that's a tough one. It's just the nature of the beast, isn't it? Good stuff.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Greatly appreciated. Thank you. Thanks so much.
So that's the end of our operations report. That's our report as a follow-up.
Sorry, to accept.
I tried to do them all together last time, I thought they had to be two separate.
I was just saying that normally we'd have a couple of pages.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. So separate. So if I could have a move in a second that we accept the operations report. Yeah. Favour? Thanks. So now, once again, highlight. Page 57. The performance measures. Check this one now.
Oh,
There you
that's
go. Excellent. Okay, so if I move a step that we accept the performance measures report, Chris. Those favour? It's carried. So now what we need to do now is move up to the reports.
action.
last one. Well, we've got a record law, that's. That was one part that wasn't quite done yet, was it?
No, I don't have any update. This is on the landowner to remove trees. Yeah. So it'll be done this at their leisure. So I think Vince asked for it to stay on there till it's done.
Till it's done. So this at the stage of.
Yeah, team will follow up in due course, I'm sure.
Item number 2 in the Fergus Street footpath repair. It's for me that that's on the Cheviot Community Committee agenda and action sheet as well. And nothing happens there until the road is reshaped, which may take some time. So the thinking was that we could remove it from our action sheet and leave it on the Cheviot Community Committee action sheet. That sounds like a good idea. So if we're all happy with that, we'll go ahead and remove that item. And then it just comes down to the last item, which is ongoing again.
Yes, Mr. Chair, so that falls into what Andrew talked about earlier. So Bill's just been on an absence for a couple of months, 8 weeks, so now he's back, they're going to sort through their priority workload and they'll get to that.
I don't forget your name. I know, I'm gonna forget your name. So sorry.
I could be Blackie.
You're back to memory.
Did we just move into PE?
Yeah, move the second, we'll get back.
Alright.
All in favour, aye.
Yeah.
Right, that's done. So now we pause this one.
Put the sign
And move to go public again. That excludes.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I will move into public first. The reason will be the same reason that you used for the items that we were discussing. I think the committee was both privacy and because the cat was in the.
Yes.
So there would be the same reasons.
Second report.
I wasn't here for the item, so
Oh,
I
okay.
would prefer not to second on this occasion. I'll go on to, oh, you.
Secret, are we in?
Yeah.
I just need a moment to stop the live stream.